On the 25th of April, the MFA announced that the people should remain at home because they feared armed confrontations on the street. But the Portuguese population clearly disobeyed the military orders to stay at home because the thirst for freedom overcame all fears. And so people took the streets to the thousands and supported the military coup to force the resignation of the leader of the regime. The people brought red carnations and distributed them to the soldiers, who stuck them in their rifle barrels, making the flower the symbol of the revolution. The revolutionary process of 74 and 75 was one of the liveliest experiences in Portuguese history. In 19 months, there were 2 failed coups, 6 provisional governments, the process of independence of the colony, several mass strike waves, demonstrations, occupations of thousands of houses, a profound agricultural reform, occupations of land, the creation of workers' cooperatives, workers' councils, trade unions, neighborhood commissions, self-managed factories, businesses, offices, newspapers, and radios. Because the thirst for freedom overcame all fears.
How about that? The thirst for freedom overcame all fears. What an amazing day to be celebrating here in Portugal. It's Freedom Day on the 25th of April, 1974, of course, the Carnation Revolution that you heard about there, and we'll be hearing more about it this morning as we talk in our leisurely way about, Portugal and on this special day, that special event that took place, which has a resonance, doesn't it, in the times that we live in now. What is it? Those who forget about the past are doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past. So let's reflect on that, shall we? Good morning to you. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show live stream and podcast on Freedom Day, Liberty Day, Carnation Revolution Remembrance Anniversary Day. We'll be doing a special tonight at 8 o'clock. Not our usual time on a Tuesday, 8 o'clock. It works better for our guests, who are Helena, Duarte, and Carlos Lourenço, the guests of Filomena, who will also be with us. She's managed to get 2 friends to come along to talk about their first-hand experience of the time leading up to the Carnation Revolution, the day itself, and the subsequent years and decades, 49 years ago. And at 9:30 this morning, in about an hour's time, after we've had a chat with Bruce, so I hope will join us. Do you remember last time? Never quite sure if Bruce is going to be here. He's a real pro. And I've sent him the links, and he's a bit like me. He doesn't necessarily respond to emails or messages. He gets the message, he knows what he needs to do, and he turns up. But I don't know that for sure. So we'll see. Hopefully Bruce will be here at 9 o'clock from Portugal Living magazine, and we'll have a peruse. We'll find out what's going on. I think there are some interesting things happening at Portugal Living magazine, and let's wait for let's not speculate. Let's find out from the man himself, the founder, the editor, the publisher of Portugal Living magazine, Bruce Joffe. Oh, it was all going so well yesterday on the streaming. The computer was playing really nicely. I noticed I've just opened up. I haven't combed my eyebrows, for one thing, this morning, but it is a public holiday. I don't have to be quite so smart as I usually am with my dinner jacket and bow tie on this morning. So yes, anyway, I've just done a quick comb of the eyebrows and here with you. How are you this morning? Do let me know in the chat, in the comments, and let's have a nice relaxed Freedom Day session on this public holiday. Schools are shut, and many businesses will be too today. Darren's here, Antonio F. I'm sure Antonio F will have information to share with us about this special day in Portuguese history. Andy Klein, Owen, good morning to you both. João de Norte. The countdown to Ponte Lima continues. T-4. And we'll be up there exploring Ponte Lima in the north of Portugal. Great dad jokes this morning. T-Duck, thank you very much indeed. How are you this morning? And Coach Turner's God Squad tips of the day in as well. Oh, the Ancient Mariner's been busy. Crikey, in at 7:30. An Ancient Mariner is also kicking off our Iberian FM talking point later at 10 o'clock this morning. Talking about, why it is we don't seem to be able to have a pleasant conversation with each other. Here we go. Just a very quick taster then of what's happening at 10. Do open minds, common courtesy and rational debate count for anything these days? I think he's referring to how angry and triggered people can get when talking about things political, even not. I mean, the simplest of things. People seem to be going off like, tinderbox fireworks, highly strung, you might say. And I include myself in that from time to time. It's something to do with the times we live in. And that's what I'm talking about with this resonance of the Carnation Revolution. It was the move from dictatorship to democracy. And what one might be forgiven for associating democracy with not the ability or an atmosphere in which you can speak freely and share your thoughts without the fear of the secret police driving you somewhere, or your neighbours grassing you up, to use a British turn of phrase, to the secret police. We have moved clearly beyond that particular type of dictatorship, but some fear, and I number myself among them, that we're moving into a different kind of civic control. Not like that 1974 style. And I don't want to, at this point, actually, I don't want to hijack what's good and great about the Carnation Revolution with perhaps some cheap political points, but we'll unpack them at 10 o'clock this morning, because it's true. I think there's a saying, isn't there? The price of peace is eternal vigilance. So whilst we can celebrate today, Freedom Day, and the overthrow of dictatorship and the move to democracy, and, let's face it, in Europe, Portugal, I think, was one of the most recent shifts of that kind. I think Spain was the last dictatorship to be overthrown. Not all Spaniards think that at the moment, but I think it was Caetano, the successor of Salazar, who was overthrown in 74, and the overthrow of dictatorship came later. I'm happy to be fact checked on that. I'm going from memory there rather than some solid research, but you know me. And it's recent. It's 49 years ago that happened. And like I say, the price of peace is eternal vigilance. We talked about war and peace yesterday, didn't we, with President Lula of Brazil being in Europe and saying that we should get around the table to negotiate a peaceful end to the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. And we must learn from the lessons of the past and not rest on our laurels, I guess, is the point I'm trying to clumsily make here. That we celebrate the freedom that Portugal enjoyed on the 25th of April 1974, and keep an eye on the horizon to make sure nothing is compromising our freedom to this day. So that's a question I'm asking you at 9:30 as well. What were you doing? Not exactly. Not many people can remember what they were doing unless it was their birthday, for example, or they happened to chance upon would the Carnation Revolution have been reported in the United Kingdom and the US in any great way on the TV? Would you have remembered that 49 years ago? But what were you doing 49 years ago, roughly speaking? And also, furthermore, let's face it, not many of us are going to be here in 49 years' time, I don't think, unless Elon has got a solution for that as well up his sleeve. But what were your hopes as an elder, as a parent, grandparent, perhaps, if not in the actual sense, in the metaphorical sense, as a guardian and steward of the earth at the moment? What are your hopes for Portugal, for example, and the world at 49 years from now? What will that be? 2072. It just really sounds let's face it, 2023 sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? But what are your hopes for Portugal and the world in 2072? We'll talk more about that at 9:30. Already, though, I was too busy leching off to Joanna Lumley in the New Avengers. Purdy and that haircut. Oh my goodness. I can't get in, Carl. Did you send me a code? I think I did. Portugal Living magazine. Isn't it great to see that Bruce will be joining us at 9? There's the confirmation. Where of your many platforms, Bruce, would you like that sent? I'm going to do a few of them now. Bear with us, folks. This could take quite a while. Bruce is a man of many platforms and his own publication as well. He's a baron, isn't he? He's a publishing baron. So he can say what he likes. And also, I think we'll find out, we'll see if it's still for sale, the Portugal Living magazine. You too can become a press baron. Buy the Portugal Living magazine and say what you want as an independent publisher. Okay, yes, I did send it to you, Bruce, to you personally at Bruce Joffe. and I'm sending it to Portugal Living magazine's messenger as well right now. So no hurry, Bruce. 9 o'clock is when you join me. And if you haven't received anything, please give me or communicate with me in some way via social media, and open up a channel, and I will send the code to you. Orico Mota is here. Good morning to you, Orico. Bom dia e excelente feriado para todos. So wishing us an excellent holiday. Melhores, the best compliments, the cumprimentos, melhores from Orico. I hesitate every time I mention your name there. Please help me to pronounce that correctly. I want to be utterly respectful to you and your contributions to the show here. And it's always great to see you turn up and be among us. Eurico, Senor Mota, I will call you for now. And tonight, yes, of course, Senor Lourenço and Senor Duarte will be with us with Filomena from 8 o'clock as we find out firsthand what life was like in the 70s in Portugal. Really looking forward to that. Good morning, Gumpers. I'm taking a big chance. I'm not actually reading through his comments before I read them out. I just need to be a few words ahead, I think, of everyone, don't I? Good morning, Gumpers, says the Ancient Mariner. Where are you this morning? Are you in Southampton? Are you still looking at this vista in your fur-lined... That is Southampton, isn't it? Are you still there in your fur-lined bikini? Bit tight, isn't it? As we say there in UK, in Blighty. How are you doing this morning? You're telling us that as a service to us heathen barbarians who don't follow such things, I would like to remind you that today people around the world commemorate Saint Franca of Piacenza Visalta today. And as he made me read something out really filthy, I see that's the cut of his jib. He will be a little bit more serious at around 10. When he's, I was going to say bemoaning the fact that you can't speak freely. I mean, the thing is, you can speak freely. We have much higher standards of free speech. It's interesting how people respond to that free speech with their take on free speech, isn't it? Now, it may be that some of you, he continues, like me, may have lived all your lives without you. There's a punchline. There is a really awkward, difficult, and perhaps filthy punchline currently putting its socks and shoes on and doing up its shoelaces and making its way towards us, okay? Probably. Now, it may be, he says, that some of you, like me, may have, and that's an NLP command, isn't it? Like me, may have lived all your lives without knowing that. But never fear about this day of St. Franca of Piacenza Visalta. Never fear that with the internet at my fingertips, I'm about to correct that deficit and save your soul. Well, that's a good service you're offering this morning. Born of a noble family from Piacenza Franca, Franca, entered the Benedictine convent of St. Cyrus and became abbess at a young age. Her attempt to restore discipline. What has this got to do with Freedom Day in Portugal, you may well ask? I've no idea. Her attempt to restore discipline encountered strong opposition, so she became abbess of the Cistercian Abbey of Montelana, later transferred to Pitoli. She died in 1218. Now, go on, admit it. Doesn't your soul seem lighter and your life richer and more meaningful with the benefit of that knowledge? No, mine neither, but you can't have everything on a Tuesday morning. Is that it? Let's face it, for all our undoubted virtues, Saint Franca doesn't sound like a whole barrel of laughs and probably wouldn't have fit well on a rugby tour or stag night in Napa. Nuns, eh? What are they like? And as my father used to say, can't get none, never had none, and don't want none. The three nuns. Ancient Mariner, I think you're first. Something's missing. Something's missing from this picture, is it not? There is a statue of her in the Abbey of Aruca. Oh, okay, in Aveiro, which perhaps goes some way to explaining why Aruca RFC are bottom of the league in the town. You have been busy this morning, and the town's nightlife is sadly lacking. Now, life is not all about drinking and bawdiness, Ancient Mariner. Newsflash for you. Sometimes a little bit of saintliness and what would it be called? Refraining from the pleasures of the flesh. I don't know if you've ever tried it. I don't very often, but sometimes refraining from such activities can bring its benefits. Can anyone talk about that here? Probably not. No, I think it's all there, sadly, which is more than can be said for my sanity. Well, thank you for introducing us. I have a feeling there's more to come here. that there is a crafty wordplay afoot here, and that a punchline is coming. Like I said, doing up its shoelaces as we speak. Your reputation precedes you, Ancient Mariner. Morning all from the Coach Turner, and a very happy Tuesday to you. A sunny morning in Prospect here, though. Isn't that a lovely turn of phrase? In Prospect here, though a little chilly. Excitement here as we're having our heads trimmed. Oh, matron! Okay, I am temporarily back. We're peppering each other's comments here. You are each other's seasoning. You're yin and yang to each other this morning. Lovely top and tailing of comments here, Ancient Mariner and Coach Turner. I'm No, you first. No, you. I'm temporarily back in the UK, but my boat is 80 kilometers south of Paris. Oh, I see. And I should resume my passage south from mid-May onwards. Coach Turner, I'm going to be, they're just chatting to each other before we got here, everyone. So they're going to, Coach Turner's going to be in Le Mans, but I suspect you'll be way past there by then. Are you picking up the Canal du Midi? Interesting. Possibly tuning into other people's conversations here, but only for the. I don't think we do need to read all of this, do we? But the Cap d'Agde is famous for its extensive nudist colony. The things you learn on the Good Morning Portugal show. I have a 10-meter catch. I bet you do, especially when you pass the nudist colony. But the French canals are dredged to a sufficient depth to allow ocean-going boats to transit from the Seine to the Rhone. Isn't he amazing? Our intrepid sailor. Hello, sailor. Which really should be my greeting for him of a morning. There he is. As long as the canals are dredged sufficiently, there's a lot of double entendre this morning, isn't there? He can squeeze his 10-meter catch in and enjoy the nudist colony. God's tip of the day, then. A common injury for sports people is a sore Achilles tendon. What I hadn't realized until recently is that tendons respond to loading, whereas muscles need resting. Okay, so stretch those tendons. You know, I was training as a massage therapist. The tendon stretch is a very nice and very pleasurable experience I found among clients. So you need rest your muscles. I mean, you need to work them and then rest them, don't you? But what are we saying here? That the tendons need to be kept under load? Isn't the body a miracle? I mean, we do complain about it a lot, I think, collectively, don't we? And people do at a certain age. But I mean, come on, be fair. You're living in a vehicular miracle, folks. Bear that in mind as well, where you're moaning about certain aspects of it. Tendons also respond well to Voltarol. He's busy. He's on fire this morning. However, you see, he hasn't got his handful of ropes and anchors, has he, this morning? He's the devil finds work for idle hands, as you can see on your screen this morning. However, please excuse me, as I must now observe 38 minutes silence. Particular number there in honor of St. Franca for the good of my soul and your sanity. More later. You see, I told you. That's what I'm worried about. It's the more later that worries me. James is here, and we'll come back to the rest of the God Squad tip of the day. Of course we will. Bom dia, Gumpers. Feliz terça a todos. Tudo bem? Bless you, Slug. Is he offering out pardons and blessings as well this morning? Ancient Mariner, have you had 3 shredded wheat this morning? I think you might have done. Bagandi is also in now. Pete's in. Oh, okay. The dictator. Oh, so the general trend then, the dictatorship of the morons is showing gradual decline all over the world. Yeah, okay, that's an interesting take. Certainly the nation state ones. Do you not think that maybe anyway? Okay, let's talk more about that at 10. I don't want to queer the pitch or sour your milk by going too much into the Iberian FM sort of material. Stick around for 10 if you want to have a bit of fun. I use the term loosely with that sort of conversation. Okay, so Slug is being blessed. If anyone has got any aches, pains, ailments, maybe lay them on your tablet, your mobile phone, whatever device you're using to listen to the show this morning. If you lay them on your device, I think the Ancient Mariner will bless them for you. It's not a scientific experiment. Of course it's not. But we are willing to follow the science in this regard and see if you feel any relief at all with the Ancient Mariner remotely blessing parts of your body that you're laying on your tablet. Get the wet wipes ready as well, of course, if you're going to be attempting that. Bless you, Slug, for you have undoubtedly sinned at some stage in your colourful lettuce-munching life. Be assured St. Franca is looking out for you today. So find a step then when it comes to putting your tendons under tension. find a step with a handrail and put one foot onto the step with the rear part of the foot over the edge. We all like to get this. For some people, this is about as over the edge as they're going to get today. Remember those days, the sort of days where you definitely need a blessing from St. Franca to recover from. Raise your heel up and down about 10 times, then repeat with your other foot. Okay, so some tendon stretching then this morning. Just be careful. Don't snap that. Oh, has anyone here snapped their Achilles tendon or snapped a tendon of any kind? Does it actually twang? Just be careful not to overstretch your Achilles by dropping the heel too far. Bon dia, Grigambers from T-Duck, who was in at around 8:04 this morning. Happy Liberty Day, happy Freedom Day. And deep thought of the day then from Shonda Rhimes. She should be a rapper, shouldn't she? Shonda Lynn Rhimes is an American television screenwriter, producer, and author. And her deep thought of the day is the act of doing something undoes the fear. I think that's absolutely right, isn't it? If you're worried about something, taking action can often clear. It's like a laxative, isn't it, for anxiety? Taking action, the act of doing something undoes the fear. Shonda Rhimes, yes. If in doubt, take action, or go out for a walk around the block. To go into nature, but maybe shift your gestalt, your state, your position, and that will shift your mind as well. Very good. Portuguese saying of the day before we move into the Quem Sabia, the Carnation Revolution factoid this morning. Bruce is getting ready to join us. Portuguese saying then, do mal ou menos. Menos, do mal ou menos, badly at least. Okay, of two evils, choose the least. That's a very, I don't know if you meant that to be a political comment, but that would certainly be where democracy is at for a lot of people, the lesser of two evils. Maybe that will be the new definition, the least worst option that's available. Okay, let's get into the Quem Sabia, the Ugonunu, the Who Knew this morning, related, of course, to the Carnation Revolution. And thank you, T-Duck, for doing that. The Carnation Revolution was a military coup. And this is for those of you who are new to this. My relationship to the Carnation Revolution has changed in the 5 years that I've been in Portugal. And I think it's a little bit more in line with some of the cynicism in some ways that I experienced from Portuguese people around it. But I opened the show this morning with a different theme, not a theme tune exactly, but a tribute this morning to the Carnation Revolution. Thirst for freedom overcame all fears. I have been, and I do continue to be on some level, deeply inspired by the people of Portugal and what they did, what they brought about on the 25th of April, 1974. So let's make sure we do celebrate, as well as apply any caveats as we move on from 74. And celebrate the big one. And it's going to be a big one, isn't it? 50 years later, next year, against an interesting political backdrop. Carnation Revolution was a military coup by left-leaning military officers. Now, I won't make a crass joke about left-leaning military officers and the fact that they might not have done enough square bashing to find themselves in a vertical position. No, the military coup by left-leaning military officers, just as nature abhors a vacuum, it seems society abhors a leaning of any particular kind, and balance must be sought. So what might have been seen as the right-wing dictatorship has a course correction here in 1974 from the left-leaning military officers that overthrew the authoritarian Estado Novo regime on the 25th of April, 74 in Lisbon. I think Caldas had a part to play, didn't it? The garrisons around the country would have been mobilizing and making their presence felt. But the pictures you tend to see, and I can illustrate, can I not, with some images from the time. I think these would have been the streets of Lisbon, and in the background, another iconic image. This is our slide for tonight, but where the tanks were in the city, that's a 25 de Abril tank you'll have seen as well, and of course the poster that was mentioned yesterday that Antonio F decoded for us. I'll leave that on the screen because that's one of my favorites as we read T-Duck's contribution here. The revolution began as a coup organized by the Armed Forces Movement, the AFM, military officers who opposed the regime, but were soon coupled with an unanticipated popular civil resistance campaign. And this is where it becomes beautiful and interesting to us. It resulted in the Portuguese transition to democracy and the end of the Portuguese colonial war. Negotiations with African independence movements began, and by the end of 1974, Portuguese troops were withdrawn from Portuguese Guinea, which became a UN member state. This was followed by, in 1975, by the independence of Cape Verde, Mozambique, Sao Tome and Principe, and Angola in Africa, and the declaration of independence of East Timor in Southeast Asia. What an empire the Portuguese Empire was, and there you see it as a historical matter coming to a conclusion. This prompted a mass exodus of Portuguese citizens. So there you go. Thank you very much for that iconic image there of course, the Carnation Revolution, the symbol, the emblem of the revolution being placed into a gun barrel. A good use for a gun on that day, to be a vase, or a vase if you're American, for a carnation. Wonderful stuff. And then, as we move, and I hesitate to share this, but I think I will. This is what I was talking about with how possibly some people are viewing the Carnation Revolution being nibbled at its roots by rodents underneath a political statement there. I'm giving you a few angles on this morning. But there you go. There is our slide for this evening. We will be talking to Helena, Duarte, Carlos, Lourenço, and Filomena this evening from 8 o'clock to go to dive deeper is what I'm trying to say, into what was going on for real Portuguese people at that time in the 1970s here in Portugal. And we will talk to you about what you were doing in 1974 at around 9:30. A good coverage in the Portugal news, I see, and I'm sure there is in the Resident as well. Let's take a very quick look at the virtual front page of the Portugal news. What they're reporting is one song and two dates that changed Portuguese society. A little bit more background then. And a lovely picture of somebody holding a red carnation. On the 25th of April, 74, as you've heard, the Carnation Revolution took place in Portugal. A group of organized soldiers united to overthrow the dictatorship and thus return freedom to the Portuguese. Until that date, the country had lived under a dictatorship ruled by Antonio Salazar for over 4 decades. However, he wasn't the incumbent, was he, at the time? He wasn't overthrown in the Carnation Revolution. It was his successor, Caetano, who I think when actually Salazar moved on, as it were, Caetano was in San Martino de Porto Bay in his boat, I'm told. I'm sure there are many myths and legends around the history of that time. And he was mobilized to Lisbon, found in his boat in the bay here, Caetano, that is. People were not free to express their opinions. Excuse me, I'm just going to have a quick sip of water. In my haste there, I have thrown cold water over myself. People were not free to express their opinions. Women were not free to vote or to travel without their husband's permission. 1974. Children were forced to sing the national anthem before starting classes. Everything that came out in the press, radio, television shows was reviewed and oppressed. And even a simple American soft drink was not known of in Portugal until 1977. Some might say every cloud has a silver lining, as it was not allowed during the dictatorship. Are we referring to any American soft drinks there, or a particular one that still isn't mentioned there? In the early hours of the April 25th, a group of military ex-combatants from the colonial wars united and formed the MFA, the Armed Forces Movement. They occupied the studios of Radio Club Português and made a statement to the population. At that time, radio was the most transversal means. Salute to radio, right? The most transversal means of communication. So making the announcement here allowed it to reach as many people as possible. A bit like us, huh? With our millions of people that we reach every morning. The announcement was made on the radio from Radio Club Português, and it reached as many people as possible. And they announced, the AFM, that is, to the whole population, that they were going to fight for the country to be a democracy again and for freedom to return. After that announcement, Grândola Vila Morena, the José Afonso song, was played, and a military column left Santarém for Lisbon. There you go, Santarém garrison. As soon as the communique came out, the population started gathering in the center of the capital. I can feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing up, and I'm tearing up a little bit. Can you believe that? Such is the power of the Carnation Revolution and this story. The population started gathering in the center of the capital, thus allying themselves with the military, and what was meant to be a coup d'etat quickly turned into a revolution. It was a peaceful revolution without the military having to use force, and there were no deaths or violence. Isn't that wonderful? Accounts do vary on that. I hear that there were 1 or 2 deaths, but not directly linked to any violence. And they put them in the barrels. Okay, so the people, happy with their passivity, offered carnations to the military, and they put them in the barrels of their guns. This was a revolution that, instead of seeing bullets and riots, saw flowers everywhere. And this is the upside, is it not, of the Carnation Revolution? The beautiful, and as I've said this in previous years, this is what we can do as human beings. We can overthrow systems with an emblem of, without bloodshed, and with an emblem of something peaceful and beautiful, like a red carnation like this. So I think it's such an important message to the world that we celebrate Freedom Day here in Portugal, but that it is a motif, an emblem, an MO, a modus operandi when it comes to a coup d'etat and revolution, that it can be done peacefully. Well done, Portugal. What a fantastic moment and process to share with all of the rest of the world in this time that we live in. This was a revolution that, instead of seeing bullets and riots, saw flowers everywhere, which was a symbol of the rebirth of the people's freedom. In a country that was ruled by a dictatorship, it was not only women who were oppressed, the workers had few rights, the bosses were sovereign, and the laws only defended those in power. This discontent on the part of workers began just before the Carnation Revolution, since military service was compulsory for all men over 18 and the country was fighting the colonial war. Many men decided to emigrate in order to escape the war. This caused a shortage of manpower in the factories, which was a problem for those who stayed because the work was divided among fewer people, thus forcing them to work much longer hours. With the increase in inflation, prices skyrocketed and the quality of life of the Portuguese fell significantly, since salaries remained the same and prices were much higher. That's familiar. And there's much more to read here, and I may return to it later, but I will put the link to it because we need to say hi and bring into our celebrations here this morning, Bruce Joffe. So let me just put that into the comments and we'll read a few of them this morning. I hope you found that useful and perhaps even inspiring. Yes, Sarah Yerman. Bom dia, feliz dia da liberdade this morning. Let's take the Portugal news off the screen for the moment. And thank you, Portugal News, for that. Who put pen to paper there, albeit virtually? That was Claudia Ferreira. Thank you for that beautiful and moving account. Got me going, that's for sure, Claudia. Thank you so much. Big round of applause then. And let's bring him onto the screen. Bruce Joffe of Portugal Living magazine. Good morning to you. Bom dia. Feliz dia da liberdade, my dear friend Bruce. How are you?
Doing very well this morning.
Excellent.
I've had 2 cups of coffee.
Oh my God. You and the Ancient Mariner this morning. People are quite excitable. What's going on, do you think, this morning that's causing this?
There's something in the air.
There is, isn't there? Sap is rising in a spring-like way. You're feeling it. I'm feeling it. Ancient Mariner's feeling it. And I dare say others are too in our community. What's new, apart from New York, New Jersey, and old jokes, Bruce?
Well, we've got New Hampshire. Okay. We've got a couple of others. We're good. What's new? Every day is new. You know that, Carl.
I do.
Every day.
Yes.
We're still catching up with a post from yesterday that you happened to find your way into. And I don't know if you want to talk about that or something else, but
I do. I really like that. The question you posed. So let's come back to that. I want to find out how you're doing. How's it going over at Portugal Living HQ? I was hearing it's going to be moving to social media. I just need to get the scoop on this. What is going on at Portugal Living magazine?
At this point, we are moving over to Facebook platform.
Okay.
Because we can reach more people, number one. Number two, when you put out, we've been coming out quarterly, once every 3 months. So a lot of information we can't use because it's old. Okay. It's past by the time the magazine comes out. Yeah. Also, we're limited to the number of pages. We're putting out 100, and we've been, including the next issue, which will be in the standard format we've had all along. Our subscribers will get it by PDF through their emails directly, and those who want to buy a paperback copy can get it through Amazon, any Amazon. but we there's just so much content that one can absorb at one time, and there's so much when you're talking about 100+ pages of a magazine. So by breaking it down into bite-sized bits, we're able to put it on Facebook, and it gives us opportunities to do some other things too.
But it's still going to carry on in its digital.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
That was my worry. I saw that. I saw that
No.
announcement, and I was thinking it's moving to Facebook. I was thinking, no, it's beautiful what you produce, and people look forward to it. And we even have a question if people want to contribute to it. So you're augmenting and expanding your reach by being on Facebook, as well as continuing in the current formats.
We are not continuing in the. We have a YouTube page. We have an Instagram page. We have a LinkedIn page, and accounts on that. But we will no longer be producing a quarterly magazine.
Oh, okay.
No, instead we will be daily, so that we can cover more content. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's easier to distribute. It's very difficult if somebody reads an article in the magazine to distribute that huge PDF to a friend. But if they see a post or they read a story on Facebook, it's very easy to share.
Okay, so it is. I mean, in a sense, Portugal Living magazine is dead. Long live Portugal Living magazine in its new format. It's like a coronation of the new version.
With carnation.
Yes, it's a carnation coronation.
It
is. Let it be known by proclamation today, on this special day, that Portugal Living magazine is transforming from a PDF quarterly into a daily, and all this wonderful information that you have a habit of finding then, Bruce, will surface via Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, any other means, a website as well.
Yes, we have a website too, Portugal Living magazine, but it's not as of this date. We have one more issue, our summer issue, which will be coming out in the original format. It will be coming out as a PDF. At this point, we've got probably 9,000 subscribers to the digital version of the magazine, and we sell probably 400 or 500 copies on Amazon. People, who prefer paper in their hands, they like to read that way.
But that will be no more. There will not be a digest or a quarterly
after
the summer issue.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And will you continue to publish to that incredible database of 9,000 people? That sounds like a great opportunity.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yes. Great stuff. Okay. So there you go. I was wanting to get to the bottom of that. You are squeaking this morning, Bruce. Do you need to spray some WD-40 on it, on a part of your body to stop that, or what's going on?
In the middle of the night, we heard a crash.
Right.
And the WC just came off the wall. The pipe broke. The water pipe to it broke. It's like,
no way.
So we have now a big bucket filled with. And we're trying to figure out, with today being a national holiday, we don't even know if places like Leroy Merlin or Brico Marché, we don't know if they're open to get
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, if I'm squeaking a little bit, it's because I haven't been able to do my business.
Oh. TMI, Bruce.
I thank you.
Okay. Well, so you're without facilities, and you've had a little bit of an emergency in the night there, a construction challenge.
Yes.
Okay.
There's nothing, to me, there's nothing stranger looking in a house than looking in the bathroom and finding the toilet halfway off the wall with pipe that connects the top part to the bottom part sticking out the other way.
It's not what you're expecting, is it?
No. Right now, we've got a big bucket of water. Right.
My goodness. Well, thank you for that little insight into your private life there.
Well, what do you do when your
Uh,
toilet goes? Or you have more than one toilet in your house?
I actually do, Bruce. I mean, I'm living the dream here. In the house I currently rent, I have a choice of three. What would you call them? Closets, I suppose. Water closets. WC, as you mentioned there. So I'm okay. I can cope with two going down.
Okay.
I have built-in, is it redundancy? Engineers call it. So I'm doing okay here.
Yeah.
And you're very welcome if you do need to come over. It's quite a long way to drive, of course. But if you do, and it's going to be an uncomfortable journey as well. But you're very welcome. You're very welcome. Let's put out an appeal this morning on the Good Morning Portugal show on a special Carnation Revolution Day of. We're talking about a different kind of freedom for Bruce here. Freedom! And if you can help with the contact details of a decent plumber who might be working on this public holiday, Bruce may need them today. So let's see what we can do.
Try it ourselves first.
Okay, good. That's the spirit. You need to know if Leroy's are open this morning or Ace. I imagine the smaller builders yards are going to be shut, aren't they, today?
Yeah,
Right.
I'm pretty certain about that.
All right. Well, sorry, mate. Go on.
You talked about challenges and lack of challenges with the new format that we're going to. But as you all know, you're on Facebook too.
Yeah.
You can put up one relatively harmless comment or question, and for a while,
all hell can break loose.
And all hell did break loose, and you broke into that particular thread yesterday.
I saw it before it got eggy, Bruce. Did it take a turn for the worse? Like
you have to bring it up to. I think your viewers need to see what Facebook administrators deal with and how. What starts off as a simple, if you go to Portugal Living magazine, it was on yesterday's post, and it was up there as kind of a avatar question.
Which one of your many, though? Are we talking about the Portugal Living group? Oh no, that's something else, isn't it? Which particular one are we looking at? Actually, if I look at my,
would you like me to send you the link?
Oh, yes, I would, because we've got into so much trouble doing this before, and it's hilarious, Bruce. Did you remember that time you tried to send me a link, and 20 minutes later we were still trying to do it, and we were getting technical support coming in from every angle from around the world as people felt our pain. So yeah, let's try that again this morning.
Okay, here we go. Let's see if I'm going to put this in.
This is great. Okay, and so the gist of it, what Bruce was doing that. The gist of it was, oh, look at you using the private chat and all that. Okay, so let's
now click on that.
Yeah, okay. All right. And that went really smoothly. It has done up to now anyway. So we're looking at facebook.com /Portugal Living magazine. And is this where the content is going to be on that daily basis that you spoke about? This is the place to go to. Okay, so everybody needs this, don't they? So I'll make sure it goes into the chat. From summer, after the summer edition, all the Portugal Living magazine output will be on this Facebook. Is it a page? Is it a group? What have we got going? It must be a page. Right, okay.
Gotta be a page.
All right. Blimey, yes, of course. And here we are. Here's all your wonderful content that you're producing, and I'm not finding it. It must be the group, though. Surely, if people were commenting, wasn't it the group where that was happening, Bruce?
No, it's on the page. You can comment on the page. You can't. You simply can't post.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, my bad there. So I've got
just go back. Good. It was just yesterday, so you don't have to go down that far to find it. And it's an avatar, and the question.
Yeah.
The avatar says, as a native Portuguese, what do you find most embarrassing about the country?
I have found it. It is you as your avatar here. And 125 comments later,
That's okay. So now, if you, it's interesting, the evolution or devolution, whatever you want to call it, of comments.
What is wrong with people?
Well,
That's a big question, isn't it?
there are different things wrong with different people, Carl. But to put this in context, okay?
Yeah.
But before you, this question, okay, this question as a native Portuguese, what do you find most embarrassing about your country? Came
Good
from
question. Good question, right?
Well,
Excellent.
it's not mine. It's not mine. I borrowed it from Quorum. I don't know if your folks.
Oh yes, I do. Yes, I put I do use that. Not recently, but it's a really good resource.
It really is.
Yeah.
So the question was raised by a native Portuguese person. As a native, okay, he asked this question, and he also gave the first answer. Okay, now it'll say Portugal Living magazine, but the very first answer, can you bring that up?
Of course I can. We're going to scroll through these and we're going to have some fun with this morning until the atmosphere turns sour along with the comments here. So I think I was first in, or was among the first, wasn't I?
Yes, you were the very first one there.
Yeah, you're on Good Morning Portugal. Please bring these responses with you, and you were very happy to do so. So, okay, I'm into the first one.
The first one, okay, was posted by the same person who asked the question.
Okay,
this was his answer to his own question.
Okay, now I've got you can grade these, can't you, as most relevant, newest, and all comments. So maybe I should be looking at all comments starting from the beginning, and that is the first one, isn't it? Where José Luis Malaquias. Shall I read that then? The strange thing about Portugal is that its most embarrassing might be too bland a word, thing is also the most glorious thing. And you know you're onto something, don't you, when you're dealing with that sort of level of contradiction. So that's a good start. Since it has to do with its age of discovery and the reverse of the coin, which is the subjugation of many native peoples and the horrible stain that was the slave trade. I refuse to see its history purely for its glory or purely for its shame, as any country's history necessarily mixes both. Well said, Jose. Getting on small, fragile boats and sailing all the way across the Atlantic, the African coast, the Indian Ocean, and the Pacific took lots of courage, know-how, scientific and technological prowess, all things that a country should be proud of. But going ahead and imposing trade by force, imposing rule on local people, and trading slaves with local populations to then take them across the ocean is the reverse side of that glory, and certainly something we should not be proud of. That is José Luis Malaquias there on Quora. As you quite rightly say. I have no argument with that. That's a very grown-up and adult way of looking at things, is it not?
Well, 28 people, if you see, replied to that.
Right, okay. Yes. Kept you busy, though, didn't it, in the last couple of days?
Yes, because I do try, like you, I do try to respond. If somebody take the time to make a comment, except there are certain things I don't know what to say, and there's no symbol that you can put that it moved down from just on that comment alone.
It's a bit of a downer, isn't it?
People talking about reparations that are being made to being asked of from African Americans that were brought, whose fathers and mothers were brought as slaves from Africa. And this is the movement. Okay. And there is history, for instance, like Germany paid, I don't know if retribution is the right word, but millions upon millions of dollars. Okay. When they admitted the Holocaust and their role in the Holocaust, they paid millions upon millions. But over here, I mean, the comments are just, it goes from the ridiculous to the sublime. I mean, in the middle of this whole thread, okay, all of a sudden somebody's going to ask, it puts a question is, what's the weather like in Lisbon today? You know, it's like, where'd that come from? Okay, what does that have to do with any of this stuff? But,
well, it seems to be, is it Marshall McLuhan? The medium is the message.
Yes.
That seems to be what goes on Facebook, doesn't it? People are used, and Twitter, people are used to become used to responding in a certain way by virtue of the context, don't they? And we see a really good example of it here. Again, if I can help in the way that I have made my bathroom available to you, I'm thinking maybe we could work together on this. You know, I have the Iberian. I mean, it's actually very, very closely linked. All of the themes of today, of dictatorship, of democracy, of freedom of speech, of people responding respectfully to each other. I think we can bring them all together on this Freedom Day. On this, I mean, that to me is freedom and liberation. Yeah, absolutely. And we've got this new thing, Bruce, Iberian FM, the phone in, which happens at 10 o'clock Portuguese time, 11 o'clock in Spain, of course, next door. And today we're actually asking the question, do open minds, common courtesy and rational debate count for anything these days? Which is a perfectly appropriate comment given what you went through and do on a daily basis, I get the feeling.
Yes. Most of the comments, you know, are there's lots and lots of reactions, you know.
Yes.
People like, people love, people, you know, hate, people, wow, or shocked by something, people laugh at it. But yeah, we do get a lot of comments. We do get, and that's another thing that makes the new format different from the existing format. The new format is interactive so that people can interact. The only way they were able to do that before was to send a letter to the editor, which they did, But it might take, they get the magazine, you know, on, let's say, June 15th, and they don't see their reply until September 15th.
In the age of Twitter, that is quite a long time to wait. I mean, that's an impossibly long time for a millennial to wait, isn't it, to have their opinion being heard? Well, maybe we can take some of these issues. Let's work together on this, Bruce. Let's have people call the phone in, which is quicker than writing to the editor. Maybe you and I can host some of these phone-ins together, and we'll take the hottest topics, and we'll give people a chance to actually speak their truth about these things and mediate, facilitate a respectful, open-minded, open-hearted exchange where people perhaps don't feel quite so emboldened by the context of Facebook, where they tend to blast off with little regard. Maybe if they're speaking it out loud down the phone in, they might be a little bit more respectful, and we can certainly make sure they are, that they're respectful and legal when they're expressing themselves, and we can deal with some of these, because I think these things should be spoken about. My beef is how they're spoken about. That seems to be a problem of our time, doesn't it? We need to speak, don't we? There are conversations to be had. They shouldn't be shut down, but people may be able to be sort of hosted in a way that brings out the best in them rather than the worst, as we can see sometimes.
For the most part, I agree with you 100%. But there are just, you know, the expression about one rotten egg or one bad apple or what. There are some people that just use these platforms, these social media platforms, for their own purposes.
What do you tend to do with them, Bruce?
It depends. If they're being obnoxious, if they're being hateful, if they're being vicious, if they're hurting another person, okay, I will delete the comment. I will just take it off, okay, and there's a note that goes directly to them. You've been removed from this conversation, not you know, from the month or for the week or the day, but from this conversation because of the comment. That's one thing. Sometimes I will try to shift it back, okay? Other times I'll try to correct it. Like yesterday, we had a comment that very few people were consistent on. The question was simply, and this affects all expats, including some from the UK, who didn't follow all of the, during Brexit, you know, follow everything so that they were copacetic here in Portugal. And that question is, how long, okay, does a new resident that's not from the EU, so we're talking about Canada, Australia,
third countries,
United States, we're talking about thousands upon thousands of people. The question was, how long do you have to maintain private health insurance?
Oh,
now, try Googling that, and you come up with what comes up first. The way Google is set up is all the sponsored paid-ins, so that everyone that
There's got skin in the game. Yes, yes.
that wants skin in the game pay for that, and they're giving their own opinions, and some of them are wrong. Okay, what I ultimately do, I do a lot of research, and I found the Portuguese law.
What is it, Bruce? So we know, Bruce. What is the answer to that?
The Portuguese law says at this point, you only have to show that you have private insurance until you come over. Okay, until you come to Portugal, you must have, from the point that you apply for a visa and are accepted, you must have travel insurance to get you into Portugal.
Yeah.
When you go to your first CEF meeting, the very first one, you must demonstrate that you have real health insurance. Okay?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's comparable.
Yeah.
But thereafter, okay, after each time you renew, you no longer need it. It's not whether your residencia is permanent. It's not whether you've got a golden visa or non-habitual residency status. It's simply the very first time. And you can see that in the answers that we gave to that question. It's a good question. But then there are simpler questions that, people don't talk about because they're embarrassed. Okay. Yes. How do you find a good barber call? You come to a new country. Okay.
Russian roulette, in my experience.
It's Russian roulette. I mean, for the first time ever.
Say that. Yeah.
How do you find one? Okay. Or for women, especially, how do you find a good beautician, stylist, whatever?
Word of mouth. It's always got to be word of mouth when you're in a new country, isn't it?
You're right.
Yeah. Go up to somebody with a nice haircut.
Yeah.
Hey.
Where?
Right. Let me just bring a few things together here. This is a great conversation. Thank you for coming here and having it. We are as well celebrating and acknowledging Freedom Day, Liberty Day, a Carnation Revolution anniversary here on the Good Morning Portugal show. We'll be asking people in a little while what they were doing 49 years ago and what their hopes are come 2072, 49 years from now. With the insurance thing, may I commend to you our great friend Nunu of Winsurance. He has products for all the stages Bruce was talking about. And if you use that link, you can find Nunu. And actually, Astrid will be here tomorrow morning. We've got a new weekly feature. Astrid will be coming in on a Wednesday morning after the school run, and she'll be talking to us about what's going on over there at Expats Portugal as well. But that's your link if you want to find out about insurance, the bit that you need for travel and whilst you're in the country for your D7. And that, to put it into context, and so people understand what we're talking about there, that is for the D7 process you're talking about specifically there, right, Bruce? Not people who've, for example, Brits who've been in Portugal forever. How long do they have to have private medical insurance? There are a lot of different nuances and possibilities, aren't there? But you're talking about the D7 process. The
D7, and yes. And I would say that it also applies to the new digital nomad. Yes. If you come in under a digital nomad visa, you would need to have insurance for that year. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for your clarification. Thank you for all you're doing on Facebook, despite how some people behave. I imagine we'll have some. I mean, you must have thought it's going to be easier on Facebook when we start publishing every day, but actually, it could be even more complicated and time-consuming, couldn't it? Ask me the next time. I will. And we can still have our conversations, can we not? You will still be on this slot. Of course. Oh, thank goodness for that. Okay. Thought I was losing you for a minute there, but no, we have Bruce Joffe and his monthly. No, I just have to find where, and I've got like 9 email accounts, plus several Facebook accounts, and I never know where you're sending the code. Yes, we need to establish a trustworthy method of a comms channel between us both, don't we? Yes. Okay. Let's get back to the comments and see what people are saying on this special day in the Portuguese calendar and history. Of course, we said hello earlier on to João de Norte. Bom dia, Gumpers. Do let us know in the chat what you were doing in 1974, if you please. Look at this. It's a Bom dia Alegria, a BDA.
to João de Norte. I like how you're doing this, everybody. The only thing missing there is a hashtag. Bom dia a todos from Francis in South Africa this morning. Feliz Terça, Andy Klein from Aveiro. And in my opinion, the world needs a carnation revolution right now. So interesting point there. And maybe stick around, Owen, and call in with that idea, sentiment from 10 o'clock when we get a bit more political and where it might get a little bit more open and eggy. But we're going to stick around and clear up any mess that we make. That's how we roll on the Iberian FM phone-in. Bom dia, alegria, que maravilha comemorar o dia da Revolução de Cravos. Cravos, of course, carnations. Que pessoas maravilhosas são as nossas. There. Did you do that on purpose, Pete? Do we say Feliz 25 de Abril? There are probably all sorts of ways of saying a happy day today, and you'll be seeing a few of them in the chat here, but that's a good question. Thank you. Can we have word from our official Portuguese advisors on that? What's the best greeting today? Good morning from Darren. What can we expect in Porto today? I think people having a day off, basically, but a party-like atmosphere. People off, people having a drink, people popping out in the city. I think you will have a great day today in Porto. Antonio F, bom dia a todos, and viva a liberdade! Quite right. That's what you can say each time you see people today. I feel like it is carnation revolution all over the world. Referring to Tucker Carlson in possibly not a very nice way. There has been sacked by Fox, and Diane Abbott has finally sacked herself. And Pete, dictatorship of the morons, in his usual uncompromising way there. Gradual decline all over the world. I'm not so sure about that. We'll talk more about that later. Senor Mota here, wishing us the best compliments of the day as well. And there was Bruce before we could get in. Superb. Did you say War and Peace? Yes, very funny, James. Yes, we do have a dad joke meme from you. Please remind me, because more and more I'm feeling like I should, to avert my attention elsewhere with your cheesy memes that you send me. But if you must, give me a little bit of a reminder later on. Darren, Porto, traditional games for children at 10 a.m. Oh, this is in Lisboa. 10 a.m. this morning then. This is traditional in Portugal. Praça do General Humberto Delgado, key figure, of course, who was imprisoned by the secret police of Portugal, I believe, and now has a wonderful monument over here on the Silver Coast, not far from Alcobaça. Beautiful monument to him, and the airport renamed after him in his honor as a dissident in the dictatorship times. 2:30, there's a homage to the anti-fascist resistance at Largo Soares dos Reis. Thank you, Antonio F. Anything going on in your village to celebrate Freedom Day, Bruce?
Yeah, people are sleeping in.
Sleeping in. That's by way of celebration. A few more Zeds this morning. It's a quiet village. It's a quiet village, isn't it? It's a sleepy little place, lovely little place. Hoping that we have at least flying and time traveling cars by 2072. So who knows? By 2072, you might be able to visit 1974 and see what it was like for yourself there. I mean, all sorts of. Can you imagine? I mean, humans can't behave with Facebook. What are they going to be like with time traveling and flying cars, Bruce? Mind boggles, doesn't it?
It's boggling.
It's boggling. Darren, from there departs a Freedom Parade to the Avenida dos Aliados, where there's music at 3 o'clock and 4:15. Thank you very much for that, Antonio F. Oh, hello. Who's this morning?
This is Toto.
I think it was Toto who might have been squeezing a squeaky toy earlier on.
Yes.
And it wasn't you after all, was it?
It wasn't.
It wasn't you.
But it was a good segue into the bathroom story.
It was a great segue into the bathroom story. Toto, how are you this morning?
Say hello.
Just wants daddy, basically.
He wants daddy.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. The faithfulness of a dog. You don't often see that in a cat, I got to say. Occasionally you do when they want feeding, but a dog will do that to you all day long. Look at that. Toto. Fantastic Passadicios do Paiva at Aruca, though, on the Gumper map. Check it out on the Gumper map. Andy's put in some many events, including those that are celebrating Freedom Day today. Thanks, Cole. The pronunciation of my name is better. Urico. Espero pela senhora professora. So I hope through your teacher. Maybe he's referring me to Filomena there to get the correct pronunciation. Jim White's in. Morning, Jim. And hello all. How's Sue's doing today? You learned today that a negative COVID result, yay, does not mean immediate restored health. No, it's a test, isn't it? I think you know yourself from your direct experience how you feel. A piece of plastic can't really tell you that, can it? Oh, well, thanks to Gumpers who had COVID for their wise words. Lots to do. Toronto in 2 weeks. Onward! Bon dia, or night, in your case, Suze, get well. Yes, the love continuing to flow from us to you, Suze, for a speedy recovery. What's this then? Thank you for your blessing, but I don't eat lettuce like a common slug. I am the glorious banana slug. Or is he just pleased to see you? And eat at the feet of the magnificent redwoods. We've got Diogo, who's been celebrating beautifully. He bought that tune and took a video of it playing on his record deck, the Eurovision tune that signaled the start of the revolution. Bon dia, Carl and Gumpers, from a beautiful mild Monaghan here from Saturday until Wednesday evening. Happy Freedom Day from Diogo. And jump on a tractor. Is this a way to celebrate? Great way to relieve stress, especially after a cafe with a sniff, a café con cheirinho. Right, is anyone suffering from long COVID here? You might give nicotine gum a try. I have a friend who dealt with it for nearly a year. It was suggested to him, and his symptoms cleared in a couple of hours. Buy it while you can. Before it's outlawed by the WHO or something. What's going on there then? Why would nicotine gum work, do you think, for long COVID, Bruce? I know you're not a doctor or a pandemicist or whatever, or a climate expert.
Control.
Well,
you know, but it's interesting. Like here in Portugal, hemp is expanding.
Oh, sorry. No, I was asking you why you thought nicotine gum might work for long COVID, but you're talking about why some things get banned. We could talk about that. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. It's addictive.
Yes.
I don't know. There must be some studies that show benefits of nicotine. We've all heard of, all of the bad things about it. But there's got to be certain qualities, that have been studied and that show that it's very positive. It's like cannabis. Doctors will prescribe that now, in countries where they're allowed, or in countries where the states have the right to approve or disapprove. It's increasingly being prescribed for people who have horrible headaches, people who have, different kinds of aches and pains, and it works. It works.
Absolutely right. So, well said. Well said. And there are very few things on this planet that are all good or all bad, right? And this is part of the nuanced conversations we might be having, is to find the good, look for the good and praise it and elevate it.
Amen.
And let go of some of the things that upset people and of no use to us. That's called evolution, is it not? Hello, just woken up, very quiet in Miranda de Corva. So what we're finding out from the villages and towns across Portugal, it's a public holiday and people are taking it easy and having a bit of a lie-in so far. That mass exodus was a huge challenge to Portugal. Thank you for this, Antonio, for commentary coming in as a result of the wonderful piece I was reading from in the Portugal News. As in 2 years, 500,000 came to Portugal from the former colonies, most of them just with some clothes and little or no money. I mean, we think there might be a migratory, what would we call it, uptick at the moment. Nothing compared to the 500,000 that came to Portugal from former colonies in just 2 years. Portugal knows how to, or has history in managing these processes. It's amazing, isn't it? Francis was still in Baghdad. I know what he's saying there in 1974. Okay, what do you hope for in 2072 then, Francis? I imagine you'll still be knocking about here. An old geezer in Porto, possibly. My health insurance card, even though in my name, was sent to my husband last week. So are you making the comment there that some things haven't changed? Your husband has the rights to the insurance card and he can give it to you on special occasions when he accompanies you to the health centre, possibly, Tabitha. That might be an old clerical error for part of the system that didn't change in 74. Hola, bon dia todos. Tune of the day is New York Sky. Let's celebrate. Good tune. Chris, good morning to you. And you will have loved the opening. I know you loved that, The Thirst for Freedom. Overcame All Fears tune. That's how we opened up this morning. First time I saw a cluster of banana slugs in Vancouver. It's random this morning, Bruce. I wasn't sure what I was seeing. They are big. It probably looked like maybe a dog dropping that was on the move, that was yellow and on the move. But anyway, no one needs to hear that at this time of day. What were you doing in 1974, Bruce? Do you remember?
Yes, I was. I was on, how do I was an actor and a writer for soap operas.
Were you?
Yes, sir.
Incredible, incredible. So you were in the show and writing it?
All my children, yes. I wrote for The Edge of Night.
Yeah.
And I wrote for Ryan's Hope. And I wrote for All My Children. I was on The Edge of Night, and I was on Love of Life.
Incredible, incredible. And what part did you play?
Well, on one show I played Draper Scott.
That's such a good name.
Did
you ever use that to check into a hotel? Draper Scott is here, everybody.
Yeah, soaps are great at coming up with names.
I bet. Yeah.
And the other, I don't even remember. That's what happens when from 74 to 2024 almost. Okay. Yes. That's what, 50 years?
It is 49 today, 50 next year. Yeah, absolutely.
The gray matters,
Well, I love that. I love that you were writing and starring in a soap opera in 1974. While
that's part of the ensemble.
It's incredible. And that's, over here, meanwhile, Antonio F. remembers his school being closed for a few days while all of this was going on. It must have been incredible. We'll find out more tonight when we talk to Helena and Senor Lourenço, who will be with us talking about their personal experience of that time. But, I mean, what a time to be alive. What an exciting time. The overthrow of dictatorship and the promise that, I was going to say the threat of democracy, but the promise and democracy, you can hear her breathing gently down your neck in 1974 in April. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you for that, Antonio. There were, a point of order here, there were 5 deaths in the Carnation Revolution. One member of the political police, the PED, was killed by the military, I think, says Antonio F., and 4 civilians killed by PED members. They're a nasty bunch, right? The secret police. The headquarters were surrounded by members of the public, and they opened fire into the crowd there, killing 4 people. So, yes, thank you for that correction, and horrible to hear that. Chris, to you from Pete, one can only imagine a revolution in the UK. The dictatorship of the moron remains. Keep it nice, Pete. I know you're not a fan, but let's keep it. I don't know. You begin to lose the argument when you use words like that, I would say. Morning, young men. Bruce and Carl, question for Bruce. Do you accept copy and articles on secret places of Portugal? In my case, the Algarve. Well, there's a surprise, Paul. This would include
secret place
storyline.
There's a secret place, the Algarve.
I think he's referring to a secret part of it. A few people know of the Algarve these days, don't they? I've heard of it.
Paul, if you would send it to me via this email, Portugal Living Magazine @gmail.com.
How about that? That's what I'm going to start using then to give you your link. So
no.
Portugal Live. Oh, is that for editorial only?
No. You're welcome to use that.
Okay, I'm putting it in the chat. So Portugal Living Magazine @gmail.com is the right way for Paul to send his secret places. But they won't be secret for long, will they? If you publish them in Portugal Living Magazine. Good luck then from Pete with it's not declogging so much, is it? Is it reconnecting?
I don't know. It's chopping. It's hauling, and we've got to go out and get new parts and hook them up. Yes.
My goodness. Okay. I think other suggestions are coming in about that. Music in Lisbon today then on Freedom Day related to the 25th of April commemorations. 5 o'clock, Palacio Baldaia, Lenin, the festival 2504. That's quite specific. I see. When's that going to be? Is that a kind of a long-term reference to the future there? 1745, Palacio de São Bento, Anamora. Is that right? At 6 o'clock. Campo 25th, 25 de Abril sempre with Oreia. 6 o'clock, Largo de Campo. JP Samois will be there, and 10 o'clock tonight. Galeria Zé de Bois. That's B Fachada, Zeca e mais Zeca. Afonso there. Very good. And there will be celebrations and concerts all over the country today. Any music you hear is likely to be related to the Freedom Day celebrations. Carl Munson opens his bathroom. This is the breaking news. Carl Munson opens his bathroom facilities to anyone who needs them. I didn't say anyone, did I? I was reaching out especially to Bruce here this morning, who's in a special need. Off to the big fair. At least I can do, Bruce. An Expo in Aveiro to watch Mrs. Bairandi Zumba whilst I eat overpriced fartardas. Okay, fartharders. Oh dear. He got me good and proper there. Okay, guys, I can take it sitting down. I wonder what that means. Oh, I see. Is that a reference to the toilet? Oh, what girls? Yeah, too much. Yeah, okay, let's move on from that. Bruce, have you thought about a chamber pot? Have you?
No.
Interesting question.
No, but I can't buy one today. The stores are closed.
There you go, Pete. Oh, Pete lives over your way. Maybe he can pop round with a bucket or something. I nearly 100% refuse to engage so-called debates and discussions on social media. I share what I'm up to, things I find interesting and or funny, and reply to others doing the same. Yeah, he's quite, I think, discerning with this. Bruce and I, on the other hand, like to engage, don't we, on social media? Do you like the idea of then turning it into a bit of a phone-in with some of these issues, and we can take them off the page and make them real, have people speak out?
Yeah, let's talk about that. I like that idea.
All right, Suze does as well. Okay, we're doing it at 10 o'clock every morning. If you want to be part of it, Bruce, in a more formal way, I would be delighted to welcome you. Yeah, Facebook isn't used by normal people anyway. What does that mean, Darren? What do you think he means there? Well, it's a bit like when I said, what's wrong with people? We said there are different things wrong with different people. I thought that was a fantastic response. Very good, Bruce. And I think we'll file that under the same area there. It's not hate media, news media, or anger media. It is social media. True. It is perhaps has been misappropriated. There's not much sociability going on anymore, is there, on Facebook? It's all about them firing videos at you, basically. Exactly what we're doing at the moment. Hi, Bruce. Are you Biberian? We've had this conversation, haven't we? Mr. S is asking this. You're gladly Biberian with a love of both Portugal and Spain.
Yes. Yes, we divide our time between Portugal. We spend probably 2/3 of the year in Portugal and 1/3 of the year in Spain.
There you go. So truly Biberian. You kind of wrote the book on it, I would say, Bruce. An early adopter of that lifestyle choice, Biberianism. When did disagreement become a license to abuse? What was about 10 years ago, wasn't it?
Great answer, Paul.
To put a date on it. Aviva's here, Ocean Dweller. Good morning to you. Bon dia de liberdad. And are you going back to haircuts? Where'd you get a good haircut? Ask advice from people with good haircuts about who they go to. Bruce is right, though. During the hot summers, you need a trim every. Did you say that? I don't remember you saying that.
I'm right. I said it.
Yes. Okay, fair enough. I'll go with that. I believe the wording says private or public health insurance, which would imply that if you are not in the public system, you need private insurance. The country requires you to be insured. Thank you, James, for that contribution on that matter as well. James, would you ever come out of retirement to do a bit of teasy-weezing? You could make a fortune. The Gumper Barber. That would be amazing. Did you do ladies, gents, or both? Were you unisexy? James, in your heyday as a hairdresser, a crimper, I think they're also called. I haven't found a good barber in the US yet, let alone in Portugal. It is a very personal thing, isn't it? Finding decent people. I do love it. I have less and less hair to contend with for the professionals, but I love it. I do love it having my hair cut. I tend to fall asleep in the chair. Will all content be available on the website? Asked T-Duck. Some of us refuse to wade in the muck of Facebag. Oh, so for those people who don't like Facebook, Bruce, what have you got for them?
Good question. Ask me next time.
I tell you what, I mean, I may be being over hasty here, but if you want to publish, if you want to syndicate a story, daily could be a bit of push. But I mean, we could share websites, couldn't we? If you want to push it through Good Morning Portugal in a way that isn't Facebook, we could talk about that as well. I think it's important we work together, Bruce, to get the word out there in your particular and special way that we've become accustomed to. Love the barbers here, says Pete. Had a wonderful moment at Christmas where the barber gave most of his customers free haircuts, and they argued and begged to pay, but he utterly refused. Just wonderful. Isn't that fantastic? Remember the first haircut I had in Portugal was I had no Portuguese. The barber didn't speak English. It was all done in sign language, and I managed to have a fantastic haircut in Taboa in central Portugal, and a shave as well. I negotiated all of that without a common language, and it was a fantastic experience. It really was. 49 years ago, recollections then of 1974 from the Gumpers, worked at a costume house, men's department, compiling costumes for shows like Brigadoon, the Tuttons, the Sporrans, etc., and the Mikado. Learned a lot. Yes, what was it? Morris Angels, I think. When I had a little bit of a dalliance with the film business, Morris Angels in the West End of London, went there for a few fittings. So you and Suze might have brushed shoulders in North America back in the day there, with the soap operas and the film business and all of that sort of stuff. Rebel Mama's in this morning. More people here this morning because it's a public holiday. Feliz 25 de Abril, sapre! And she, of course, of the crocheted carnations. How's it going this year, Rebel Mama? And Ian, Coach Turner is here. More than 49 years ago, I was one of the three little maids. I can still remember most of the words, though not a treble anymore. A classical education. There's a lot to be said for it, isn't there? Look at that. I wonder if you could still do it now. Should we do that for our Christmas show? We're getting back doing being one of the three little maids. That'd be beautiful. You, Phil, and maybe who else could we have in that lineup? I think it's got to be Deagle, isn't it? Awesome. I would love to get a trim from you sometimes, James. So James might go into it. Also, I'm not retired, he says. I'm still working a few hours per week, but not in the hair cutting business. I think in the trauma cutting business rather than the hair cutting business. Anything we can help you with, Bruce, with submissions, with this new move to Facebook for Portugal Living magazine? Are you looking for anything in particular in terms of contributions at the moment?
No. Okay. Our slogan is the thoughtful magazine for people everywhere with Portugal on their minds.
Yep.
The people who are thinking about Portugal, about moving to Portugal, about, buying a vacation home in Portugal, or whatever. We try to have cover people, places, culture, language, you name it.
Yep.
Anything that helps people acculturate and on the other hand, we also like in the upcoming issue, there are 3 articles about people who there's 11 things that I hate about Portugal. Okay. One person wrote. There's another story about why some people, and actually it's almost 80%, between 50 and 80%, depending on where you get your figures from, of expats who move here return to their homeland. I never knew that.
Hold on a minute. Could you say that again?
Yes. Between 50 and 80% of expats that immigrate to Portugal, don't stay. They return to their homeland or go elsewhere.
Wow. That's quite
it's a huge number. Yeah.
Yes. And that would include people not necessarily who are unhappy about being here, but are kind of considering a better offer. So there are those who don't like it, who go, and there are those who are perpetual, those websites where, mobile, not digital nomads exactly, but mobile wealthy people looking for the best deal. Those kind of people as well will be moving on, won't they, after they've exhausted the NHS?
There are also people that miss their family. Okay, yeah. They thought that they or their community or whatever, and they just feel that they were happier or more content or for whatever, or they just can't deal with Portuguese. They can't learn the language and they feel very, very isolated.
Yes. Yeah. That's fascinating. Quite incredible. And for you and I, Bruce, who love being here, it's a bit of a shocker, isn't it? And this is a part of the unfolding story, we could put it, that you will cover, of course, in Living Magazine, Portugal Living Magazine, and we will as well, because when I started out with Good Morning Portugal, it was nothing but unicorns farting rainbows, basically, and how fantastic everything was in Portugal. And the evolution of that has been that people do leave. It was a shock to me, the first friends I knew who thought this isn't for me and left. And now I heard only yesterday there are not just Facebook groups for people moving to Portugal. There are actually Facebook groups for people leaving Portugal as well. Yes, that's a sign of the times, isn't it? It's not for everyone. And we talked about this yesterday, of course, with Bob and Viv. They're doing more to help people really make a useful decision. And I think more people are sort of flexing, evolving into that kind of consultancy, which is a much deeper analysis of like, is this really for you, rather than, yeah, everything's fantastic, just move over. Those were the first videos, weren't they? And now we're seeing something different.
To a degree, we're also seeing a lot more people who are trying to sell Portugal. Okay. Government is putting lots of money, but people like you, people like me, and Good Morning Portugal, Portugal Living Magazine. Yes. How many there are expat coaches there, out there. Yes. There are relocation services. There are feet on the ground services. There are, all of these businesses that have taken off to try to get people here and acclimated.
Amazing, isn't it? It really is incredible. We have so many comments to get to, but that is quite a stunner there. 50 to 80% will not be staying who are coming here. Morning to you, Sarah. I'm seeing Garvo's in, Bob's in, Bob, who I just mentioned. Let's see how many of these we can get to before we do a bit of Iberian FM, and let Bruce go to fix his toilet this morning.
I do have one last thing to say before I go. So just
say you first. And also, please stick around a little bit longer to say hello to everybody. But yeah, what is it you wanted to say?
Did I understand correctly that later today, your later broadcast is more politically inclined or more open to sensitive topics? Let's put it that way.
That's 10 o'clock every weekday morning now. Okay. So, for example, in a few minutes' time, we might be a little bit leisurely about it, but because we don't want to rush you off. But the Iberian FM phone-in certainly goes to the places that traditionally we've wanted to avoid on Good Morning Portugal, because there's a time and a place for everything, isn't there? Today we'll be looking at open minds, common courtesy, and rational debate count for anything these days. That will be what we're talking about at 10. It can get political. It can get sensitive. For my part, I want us to have an open-minded, open-hearted, legal and respectful conversation in which people can grow, not get the better of each other. That is my intention with it.
That is an excellent orientation, Carl.
Thank you very much.
I want to leave after saying greeting, those in your audience. When I tuned in, you were talking about Tucker Carlson.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know how many non-American, non-USA people are aware of him and the power of the soapbox that he had. How many people he reached, how many people he touched. But mark my words, he and Trump are already talking.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me one bit.
Huh?
That doesn't surprise me one bit.
When you think about the implications of that, it's mind-boggling. But anyway, it might be something.
On that note, you must come back one morning at 10 o'clock to discuss that. And that's why I'm making this clear sort of demarcation. Those sort of conversations can get a little bit triggered and emotional. And I've not got a problem with that, but I don't want that in my first hour and a half. We're about loving life and having an upbeat, positive start to the day. If we start talking about Biden, Trump, Carlson, Clinton, it's not going to work out so well as an upbeat start to the day. It's more of a mid-morning thing, isn't it? And Sunak and all the rest of them. So let us.
As long as the bathroom is working.
Are you all right for a few more minutes? Because I don't want to deprive you of anyone who's wished you a good morning this morning. And I am really scrolling back a long way. It's too quiet. So let's do a few more of these. And it's too quiet here in Miranda de Corvo. One car driven by, and that's it. Enjoy it, Tabitha. Please do. Gilchrist is here. Lord Gilchrist, he might phone in this morning. Happy 25th of April. And we've also got Joao de Nort saying, Don Lemon sacked on the same day by CNN. To be politically fair, no, I didn't add any gratuitous embellishment. Well done, very restrained. Didn't go unnoticed. 1974 was terrible. Gary Glitter, tank tops, platform shoes, and flared trousers. That would have been in the UK. Fantastic. Oh, now I get it. Haven't messed around with the outside of anyone's head for 20 years. He only does the inside of heads these days. Gladly join you, Carl. Inspired this morning to write a poem. Okay, so I think you're up at 10 as well. That's fantastic. And maybe on the screen as well then. So what I can do so people can get ready for our Iberian FM phone in, or even be on the screen. The link is going in there now as we celebrate Liberation, Freedom Day here in Portugal, with in the spirit of it being in a democratic society with freedom of speech. Come and speak freely with us. Garvo was in, loving Toto this morning. Great stuff. Carnations are all there. Cheers, Darren. Thank you very much for that. Okay. Arico, thank you very much for that. Squire of the Shires is in. Well done to the brave Portuguese for recognising their government had become despotic and tyrannical, an enemy of the people, and not a defender of our human rights and freedoms. We must be ever vigilant with this sort of thing, mustn't we? Bob's in as well. Victoria Benson with a beautiful carnation picture from Portimao, erected last year. Who doesn't like to be erected last year? Or any year for that matter. Beautiful job there in Portimao. Red carnations from Victoria. Thank you for those. I'm out, folks. Was it the mention of Trump? Quite possibly there. Good morning, Victoria, from the Ancient Mariner. And we need to show the Dr. Bayard's photo to show the slug wrestling lady on the production line to explain how the slug came to be. We may need to do that, but we haven't got time right now. We'll come back to that. Do remind me of that, James. We've got to move on to the Iberian FM phone in. Whilst we say hello to everybody this morning, Buddy included. Bon dia from a misty sail this morning. Been very low as the Escritura. Oh no! Escritura postponed yet again. Do not have a new date yet. Stuck for a time. I'm so sorry, Buddy. We thought we were there. We thought that ball was over the line. Oh, my goodness. Good luck with that. Nicotine gum has been shown to bind the spike protein. So there you go. Maybe that's what helps with the long COVID situations. Some big bangs at midnight last night. Well, good for you. Did you know that Dr. Bayard do a range of merchandise, socks, bags, tins? No, but we do now, and I will be looking at that after the show. Bob, great fact to know. I was visiting with a friend yesterday who shared about the next 5 years after the revolution being really rough on many levels. Of course, after the celebrations and the openness to democracy comes reorganization, and that's not going to be a pretty process, generally speaking. Draper Scott is in the house. Yes. My mum watched Another World in the 70s. That's how far back these comments go. Lady Gilchrist was 5 and she remembers the event. Thank you for that. Important for the government of the people is separation of powers and not centralized federalism. Yes, well said. You might want to call in a bit as well. Amazing that it took place in our lifetime. Yes, Aviva, there are many lessons to learn. Democracy is fragile and needs to be cherished. Well said. Amen. Between the executive, legislative, and judicial branches, so has to make it very unlikely that a tyrant individual or corporate entities could seize power. That's our big threat, I think, is the corporate entities, isn't it? The transnational corporate entities who seem to want to control our lives. 74, I was finishing sophomore college and prepping for my first European trip coming that summer. We went to Germany, heard only about the Weltmeisterschaft in football. Nothing about Portugal. Interesting, isn't it? It wasn't on the radar for many people necessarily. Yes, days freeing political detainees from prisons all over the country. People celebrating from the first moment, despite the MFA asking people via radio and TV for them to stay at home. Mrs. M is in it as well this morning. Commodes are available, thankfully. I have 4 toilets. If Bruce is near, he can use them and stay. An offer of accommodation as well. How about that? Beautiful, Pete. Thank you. Somehow, I always thought Bruce was in the Algarve. How very dare you? If he is near Fundao, I can probably get his plumbing sorted. Have you had an offer like that in recent time?
No, I haven't. We're about 40 minutes from Fundao.
There
So
you go.
I will let the solar light. What's his name?
Pete, that's Peter.
Pete. Okay, Peter. I will let him know. Thank you.
There's a good barber in Seville, but it's a bit of a song and a dance. Oh my goodness. I was a damn good hairstylist, men and women, just as I am a damn good coach, former psychotherapist now. I excel at what I put my attention to. And wow, Bruce, don't know which bit of your conversation that was referring to. But Sarah, yes, I need to get in touch with you, Portugal Club member. The secret is acknowledging, understanding, and learning from our differences, not refusing to talk about them or trying to make us all think the same. Well said. Yes, what can we learn? With a few exceptions, Senora Mota, the world was against us. Even our traditional allies, such as those of NATO, conditioned us, and some even supported the guerrillas. No to the colonies, they said. Amazing. And still feeling, what? I used to go to a barber's here. He had no electric, directed daylight via mirrors around the barbers. $2.50, says Randy, for just me. $4 for me and my son. Sadly, he's passed now. What a legend. Thank you very much for all your comments this morning. Oh, yeah, where are you living, Bruce? Quick question for you.
Well, we have a place in Castelo Blanco and also in Elvas at the border by Badajoz.
Okay, there you go. Bruce, what is the source of those stats, the 50 to 80% of people returning home?
It was something that was posted on Portugal Living magazine. It came from a reliable source. Andrew
can't believe it either. Lord Gilchrist can't understand why people don't settle when they're here. Well, people are different, aren't they? Dougie's in as well. Good evening. What am I talking about? Good evening. It will be tonight when we talk to Senor Gonzalo and Helena Duarte. But no, good morning to you, Dougie. And people, what's this? People's needs change over time, Andy. That's maybe why. When I worked with the Peace Corps, about 40% of volunteers returned early. That's the thing, isn't it? When expectations don't necessarily match reality. I believe a large portion of those who leave would leave anywhere because they think the location will solve all their issues. The issues always travel with us. I think that's true, isn't it? Yeah, and of course, ill health can be something that you contend with and make you want to go home. Looking forward to today's chat. Is Mrs. M. 1974 is a fantastic. I agree. Beautiful woman was born in that year, Mrs. M, as you see there. I lived many places, and there are many reasons why people leave a location or go to a relocation destination. As we grow, our needs and desires change. Thank you, everybody. I can't read everything, but great show, Carl and Bruce. Thank you very much, Squire of the Shires. And just a last comment from Senora Mota. Some had, and amazingly, they still have their colonies today. We said that if all Portugal with colonies were not defended, it would be prey to another type of imperialism. Is that true? That's something we can pick up tonight. Reasons for leaving their reasons for leaving the Peace Corps were varied as well. Great work. Thank you. Sorry for keeping you, Bruce, an extra 8 minutes. And I hope our paths will cross more than they already do. We'll definitely have our monthly residency, but with the move, you heard it here this morning, of Portugal Living magazine from after the summer edition, it will refrain from PDF versions online and via Amazon, and will be published on social media. And we'll do every possible thing we can to help in that process. Bruce, do you know where we are?
Yes, I do.
All right, my friend. Have a great day. Love to everybody there in your home with the lavatory that is in need of some attention. Good luck. Boa sorte, meu amigo, with that. All right, there he goes. Sticky, he's in a bit of a hurry to get away there. We'll give him a round of applause in his absence. We will remove very slowly and leisurely the ticker tape, the banners. I will sit up in my chair a bit. I will change my posture, and I think I can expect a call from Owen, who's written a poem on this special day. And I will, on the other side of the Iberian FM phone-in theme, I'll also play you a little video which tees up today's subject, which is like, why can't we just talk to each other without losing our proverbial? Good question, Lord Gilchrist. Are you ready for Europe's biggest phone-in? Well, it is in a way. I mean, we got we're into the tens of people here. No other phone-in calls itself Europe's phone-in. So technically, we are taking a big liberty. But actually, I think presenting a statement of fact there. But it's no longer Europe's biggest phone-in. We're not framing it quite like that. You're looking at and listening to the Iberian FM phone-in. You're most welcome to call in on 913-590-303 as we hang out this morning on the Iberian FM phone-in. And consider this. Let me see if I can share this video with you, which I thought I'd downloaded. Oh, here we go. Calling out conversational cancel culture. So this was on the mind of dear Ancient Mariner. Hello, sailor. And this is what was on his mind yesterday. He sent to me, which tees up our conversation today. And I think, Owen, you might be joining me for this. Check this out, everybody.
Hi, good morning. I think one of the issues we face with public debate on topics relating to geopolitics, relating specifically to Ukraine, but to a whole raft of issues, is that it's not really possible to entertain two sides of a discussion. People have evolved in the recent past into having hardened, immutable views, such that when they're confronted with an alternative approach, whether valid or easily dismissed, they don't welcome it, they don't entertain it, perhaps most disturbingly, they don't even listen to it. This is the problem. The problem is not the underlying issue. The problem is the collapse in reasoned argument, interest or reliance on factual evidence, and a willingness to acknowledge that we live in an imperfect world and sometimes people disagree with us. Doesn't matter whether they're right or whether they're wrong. What does matter is that we show respect for their opinions. Unfortunately, that's a deeply unfashionable approach.
Well, is it deeply unfashionable? Can we bring it back into fashion here? If you want to join me on the screen, the link is in the chat now. I thought Owen might be doing that. Thank you for your compliments for the last segment with Bruce. Great show. Cheers, Jim. And have a great day, everyone. Maybe people are moseying into the world on this Freedom and Liberation Day here in Portugal and wandering about towns and cities and villages across the land. I still think it's a bit early, but you may well be better off here hanging out and having a chat in honor, really, in many ways, of the principles that the Portuguese people struggled for against dictatorship. And then on this day, the 25th of April, 1974, overthrew a dictatorial regime and brought about a more democratic government over the decades. Interestingly, I showed an image earlier on. Some Portuguese people feel that the promise of the Carnation Revolution hasn't been fully delivered, and there is a political cynicism of this kind. But what better time, as we approach the 50th anniversary, to really look at what's been achieved with our Portuguese brothers and sisters. The promise, what's been delivered, what's possible in years to come. And there are the rodents nibbling at the roots of the red carnation there, a little meme that I saw. Oh, forgot to share the dad jokes and the visual meme. We still might do that before we finish on the Iberian FM phone-in today. But that's a bit of context for you there. And the Ancient Mariner talking to us there about how some of the old factors or principles of engaging with people seem a bit old-fashioned now. Things like facts. That's a tricky one, is it not? The truth. I don't think he said that. I don't think he went into that super controversial territory. But just the ability for people to talk to each other about the ideas and stick maybe to the ideas rather than getting personal. I think that was part of the thrust of his and gist of his conversation there as well. So Buddy saying, ciao, ciao. Good luck to you, Buddy. Thanks for today. Well, it's been an amazing time talking to Bruce and being able to hang out with everybody on this holiday day. I know there are noticeably more people here this morning. And so thank you all for being here and chatting about the Carnation Revolution. What I didn't do, and while we're waiting for you to respond to the idea that we can't just have a flipping conversation these days without someone losing their rag or cancelling you. And it's happened to me. I have had, it's a bit like sound like Bill Clinton now. I have had relations with people relationships appear. It doesn't sound any better, does it? I have communicated with people who are Portugal bound, and we've appeared to be getting on really nicely. And then lo and behold, I post something up, which I believe is my right to do so on Facebook, that they didn't like the cut of my jib, and described it, I think, in this notable example as a right-wing hate meme. It was a cartoon, for goodness sake, and I thought it made a good point. And I'd been very happy to talk about my so-called right-wing hate meme. That person has had nothing to do with me ever since. I don't think I'm an especially vicious or difficult person to deal with. I think I'm fairly open and generous in conversation, but it was just too much for that person. I don't really want to live in a world like that. My door is still open to that person. And I felt saddened by their decision to treat me like that. Although I do understand it and respect it. Of course, they must do what they feel is right. But I just thought, I don't really want too much more of that in the world that I'm living in and the one that I pass on to my kids. I'd like my kids to be able to disagree with people respectfully, lawfully, legally, and have a chat about it, for goodness sake. Okay, nuances, says Suze, are sometimes lost in texting. That's so true, isn't it? And that is part of the problem with social media. I text some brilliant and dry, funny things that are completely lost without the vocal delivery. I can hear your voice, though, when I'm reading your memes, Suze, and sometimes I just say stupid stuff. And don't we all? And there's another thing. Don't we all have the right to make mistakes and mess up in public and apologize and move on, rather than being forever known as that person who got cancelled for that silly thing they said? For goodness sake, come on, people. Owen, are you ready? Would you like to join me on the screen? No, he's not ready just yet. Give me... Oh, it's a thumbs up. He is ready. Okay, here he is. Ladies and gentlemen, I think for your literary and inspirational pleasure this morning, move to write a poem. Give us the backstory, please, Owen. Good morning to you, mate.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, Carl, just reading through the history of April the 25th.
Yeah.
And I actually heard a story from one of the Portuguese teachers I have over here, Isabella. And she was around at the time of the revolution. And it was amazing hearing the story. Obviously, the countless amounts of people that fled the country after the ensued panic that happened, straight after there. So,
yes.
And also there's another couple of other things. A friend of mine that's been rather depressed for a long while, who has an amazing singing voice, decided that she would make a video of herself singing this morning. So I've had lots of things this morning inspire me just to write something. So I did.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, caller, call back. Give Owen a chance to voice this. That'll be, Dougie's trying to get through. In fact, I'll answer the call. Doug through to the Iberian FM phone in. Doug, we're gonna give Owen space here to read his poem, but if I can have you on the line there, is that all right, Doug? Good morning to you.
Good morning, Carl. Absolutely. Carry on.
Cheers, Doug.
Thanks,
back to you, Owen.
Okay, so it has no title. I've just written it as it is, and
I'm gonna give you full screen.
Take it as you will. So, I have come to the conclusion that this life is just an illusion. It is something that I feel, so here is the deal. All my life I have questioned to the max, to hear the truth, to be given the facts. But something went wrong along the way. Bad is good, and good is bad. The devil has been elevated, whilst God has been berated. Can you see what's going on? How can right be wrong? And so on. You don't need a politician, an actor, a pop star to dictate what's in your life. Think for yourself, open your eyes, critically think to see through the lies. Don't just sit back, wake up, analyze. That's it.
Thank you, mate. Oh, yes. I think we need a cut and paste on that, buddy. If you can send me that, I'll make sure it gets onto the screen or is available to people in some way or other. That is moving, poignant. I'd like to read it again. And I think you'll find agreement with what you're talking about there. Let me join you back on the screen. And we've got Dougie coming in as well. Doug, that was great, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Well done, Owen. I love it.
Thank you, Doug.
What did you want to share with us this morning, Doug?
I just wanted to come in on the conversation and see where it leads. I mean, I completely concur with, the notion that people are very swiftly shut down or cancelled or, over politics generally, and not necessarily just that.
Yes.
Other things as well.
Yeah. And do you find this on a personal level? Actually, I know the answer to that because we were in a. You were a member of the Good Morning Portugal Wine Club, weren't you? And sometimes those conversations used to drift into debates and conversation fueled by Portuguese wine often. And sometimes
my problem in those days was I was in a fine gathering of very maybe not very that puts me in an intolerant viewpoint, doesn't it? But mainly left-wing leaning people. So anything that I said that was contrary to that was pounced upon, wasn't it?
Well, you were the fox in the chicken coop with your accolades for Margaret Thatcher among, as you say, left-leaning Portuguese wine drinkers. So those were some memorable conversations, and I think we have been true to the values of Good Morning Portugal and the Iberian FM phone-in, and agreed to disagree. Right? We it's not got eggy, difficult. You haven't been cancelled, I don't think. Here you are speaking.
Never.
Yeah.
The thing is, a lot of the stuff I came out with was done to tease mainly. I didn't mean half the things I said.
Really?
I was just rubbing people up. Oh, I did, yeah, oh yeah,
so
because
naughty.
I knew I was going to get a reaction.
Oh, Doug!
I've always been a bit like that, to be fair.
I can't believe it. I thought they were heartfelt political. That's why I defended you so fervently in your self-expression. So you're just winding people up. I feel like cancelling you now for doing that. Hey Owen, hey Carl, bon dia Owen from Squire.
I've sent you that poem, Carl.
You're getting some great feedback for your beautiful words this morning, Owen. Great, Owen. Some hearts there from Squire the Shires. Lovely Owen from Sue's. Good one, Owen from Baddie. Excellent Owen from T-Duck. And I think you've got the closest we can get often, I think, with emojis for 3 red carnations there. Heartfelt and well-considered words, Owen. So there you go. We got to share those. Or maybe you'll read it again for us before we finish this morning.
Anything else? That was beautiful.
Cheers, mate. Anything else, Dougie, while you're on? I mean, you are... let me speak freely for a minute with my analysis of you as a man politically. I think you have forthright, right-leaning views. You're quite open about sharing them, and that's, of course, you should be. And somewhat old-fashioned. Would you agree? Because the Ancient Mariner used this term, a little bit old-fashioned. Would you consider yourself a little bit old-fashioned in some of your views? And how's that working?
Absolutely. Do you know what? You're right. My views are
guilty as charged.
Terribly old-fashioned. I haven't moved with the times in many aspects of life, and I've got young children. I've got children in their 20s, and I very often, get reminded of this. And I have a younger wife; she's 10 years younger than I am. But basically, I find this.
Yes.
I notice this in the jib of our conversations that. Well, she's a lot more progressive than I am in many, many respects. Yeah. So, well done for noticing that. But I didn't realise it came through so strongly.
I mean, in some ways, it's your job to be old-fashioned then. And there are two sides to that. Like I think we've referred to this already, haven't we? How nothing is entirely good or bad, and old-fashioned can be used as a put-down. But actually, the old-fashioned, and I think maybe you've made a reference to this as well, Owen, in what you were writing. It's not all bad, is it? It can be used as a put down, but let's look at what is put down as old fashioned. And instead of a cheap put down, reconsider what might be useful in what has been written off as old fashioned. So on that basis, Doug, what do you think are old fashioned things that you get criticized for that actually might have some use in this world right now?
Well, there's a plethora of things that you could describe as old fashioned, but you can just roll them into one sort of great mass and call it my personality. I'm an old basically, I'm a crusty old sod, you know, and in comparison.
Sod. Okay, you're old-fashioned. You're old-fashioned personified there. Well,
I mean, there are other things, of course. These put downs and these cancel things come if you approach certain subjects.
Yeah.
Usually, the darling subjects of what I often describe in this day and age as the woke brigade. Anything to do with things like such things as environmental issues. If you say anything, you know, if you step out of line or that, you usually get shot down and just things like that.
Isn't that? I mean, what I'd struggle with the woke thing. Owen, are you happy to stick on screen?
Absolutely, yeah, not a problem.
I think it's awful when people get invited onto the show. They want to go, but they're stuck on the screens. But anyway, you're a grown up. You can tell me anytime you want to go, can't you?
I'm fine. I'm fine with it, Carl. It's good.
I find this woke bashing a little bit difficult as well, because it's almost like the opposite, the mirror image of old fashioned, isn't it? Whilst young people are putting old people who are old-fashioned down as a simple put down. Woke is also a shorthand, isn't it, for dismissing ideas that might be worthy of consideration, even if only to be dismissed. But can you imagine? You must remember what it's like, Doug, to be young, and at the moment, young people who are only just. But if you're told you're woke as a simple put down and an end to all the ideas you want to share with the world, that must be very frustrating. I would have thought.
I would say that's actually. I've never actually called anybody woke, by the way. You know, into their face. No, I haven't.
Well, you can do it now if you want. If you want to use this platform to do that.
No, I don't know. No, I won't. I won't do that. That's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
It's a horrible thing to do. I mean, but you know, things like environmental isms. In particular, although you know, I appreciate. That these people who talk about this subject are absolutely bang on in what they're actually saying.
Yeah.
But if you're saying, well, hang on a minute, maybe that's taking it a little bit too far, then you're considered a bit, he's right-wing. He's just one of these bloody Nigel Farage supporters.
Oh, I see.
So, you know, shoot him down, you know.
You didn't like people ruining the snooker, and that makes you a far-right extremist.
Well,
I mean, Carl, just on that, if I could just say, if we look at the current wokeness, I would be classed as somebody that was far right.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. I mean, if we go back to the 70s, if we rewind to the 70s, and I was to say that, listen, address me as a white female, what would the reaction be of people going back then? And I think this is
in the 70s. Can you imagine?
Escalated into something stupid.
I'd open the door for Owen. I'd open the door for a start.
Because he's an old-fashioned gentleman.
I ain't no Shirley Bassey, Doug. I ain't no Shirley Bassey.
Where are we talking about? Are we talking about down the pub in the 70s on a building site? Where are we talking about?
I can't. I'm trying to picture him as Shirley Bassey now. I don't know.
Don't.
For a moment. Let's bring in a few comments from people. The elephant in the room. Hey, big spender. The elephant in the room. Regarding this,
you're just oiling the wheels.
It's my job. It's my job. The elephant in the room. Regarding this inability to have rational conversations. Are the various topics surrounding social justice, grouping it together there, João de Norte. The accepted thought seems to be entrenched and indisputable. Now, that isn't so interesting, isn't it, on this day especially? If you can't speak of something or you fear being policed about it, we are back to the pre-Carnation Revolution times, aren't we, that people were so keen to get rid of, I would have thought. Ancient Mariner, what has changed is people's willingness to tolerate different perspectives and the vicious unpersoning of those whose views do not align with our own. Every opinion is valuable, even if not valid. Question for you, Ancient Mariner, teeing this up today as you did. Do you think you might be being a little bit too sensitive, though? Having your opinion disliked is not the same as being cancelled. I see quite a lot of that. Do you, Owen? You know, people claiming they've been cancelled. But if they're actually on a screen claiming they've been cancelled, they haven't actually been cancelled, have they?
Exactly that. Exactly. You do get that all over social media, don't you? And just funny, when he was talking, obviously, with April the 25th and the secret police that was there, we still have that now. I think they call them fact checkers. something
We
like
do, but you're not going to get banged up, are you? You're not going to get driven to Spain for a free holiday.
Well, that's funny you should say that, Carl. I was seeing something the other day, and it was a short video that was put on, and it was two gentlemen talking in the room, and it was talking about social media and how it's perceived in different countries. And there was one case where somebody was given a small fine in a country where relatively all this stuff is really picked up on. Let's say Russia. So you say something bad about the government, this person got a fine. Now there was one person that was tagged, put on a curfew, given a fine, and there was about 7 or 8 restrictions given to this person.
Yeah.
And that country was the United Kingdom.
Yep. Well, fair enough. Good point. Well made.
God.
Yeah. I mean, that is terrifying, isn't it? Because you're not driven to Spain anymore. Metaphorically, you are kept at home in prison, in your own prison that you have to pay for, and tagged. And if in these worst case scenarios, if we do have, and I'm proper going down the rabbit hole now, but I think I'm among friends who might forgive me and listen to me openly and respectfully. We'll see. But if this is connected to your ability to operate in the world and spend money, for example, digital currency, or exit your 15-minute city, for example, all the things we've criticized China and Russia for are suddenly on our own doorstep, aren't they? I mean, is that conspiracy theory talk, Owen, or do you think that's likely?
Not a chance. I think if you go back, certainly the rabbit hole, I would say I've been down the rabbit hole for at least 17 years. Part of the reason why I'm here in Portugal and left the UK just in time.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know. I can't explain it, Carl. It's just one of those bizarre things. Is that I've been in the company of people where things have been talked about, and this person has been scoffed, laughed at, belittled, and yet possibly a couple of months ago, those actual things that were said back then have actually happened. And it's like you were saying, it's like how China is. Things are creeping in slowly. And I think we get, especially on media and social media, is that things are put out there to distract the general public from those issues that are being, put out there without people's knowledge. So it's I don't know. It's a mad and crazy world we live in, but I love Portugal and I'm staying.
All right, Doug, did you want to add to that? 15-minute cities, digital currency as a way of controlling people without having to put them in prison?
I think it's scary when I read these ideas about 15-minute cities and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It frightens me to death, to be honest. But going back briefly to this cancel culture thing, I blame a lot of it on social media and the internet and stuff, where people these days are able to gather in groups and bounce off one another in ideas wise, and they're all singing off the same hymn sheet, and basically they grow into a sort of a group, if you want to call it that, and anybody who offers any shall we say opinions that differ from that might not be made to feel welcome within that sort of arena.
Yeah, I understand that. Just a bit like us this morning. However, apart from the fact that we would be open to challenge, I think, and as this develops, we'll find out if that's true or not. Cheers, Doug. I think Garvo's trying to call in, one of the people you used to upset in the wine club back in the day, if I remember rightly.
Garvo was always the voice of reason.
He
always has been and always will be.
Absolutely
and I have great respect for Garvo. And even Andy, who is a self-confessed Marxist, always puts his points over very eloquently, and I respect them too.
Yeah, and you know what? That's what I love about all three of you men that you've mentioned there is we can still talk to each other. We haven't cancelled each other yet, and we can have these conversations. And may I say, as an old-fashioned guy and a would-be elder, a bit too young to be an elder just yet, but you're setting a fine example. You're expressing yourself, and you are not cancelling other people, and still having robust, awkward conversations in the public domain. And today has been a great example. Long may it continue, Doug. Cheers, mate.
Cheers for now.
All right, bye for now. Love to Wales. So the line is open, Garvo. I'd love to have you call back. In fact, I'm going to ring you. That's if you haven't gone out to your field to contemplate. As I think you sometimes do. So we've got an outbound call. Are you hearing that ringing, Owen?
I am.
Great. Okay, so that's really good. And we've got some voicemails, I think, that have come in as well. Oh, he's declined my call. Maybe he's got fed up and gone and do something else. Ancient Mariner, this is due in part to the explosive growth of social media, but it represents a retrograde. Oh, here he is. A retrograde step in interpersonal relationships. I don't need to agree with an opinion, but I surely do need to respect it. Well said, Ancient Mariner. I don't think anyone would disagree with you there.
Absolutely. He's spot on there, Cal, because I think
he's bang on. Go on, mate.
People's opinion aren't heard anymore. They're just, dismissed.
Yes.
I think it's time that people, if we all sit down, regardless to what your political views are, what people need to do is actually sit around the table and talk about it rather than putting down what people have said.
Yeah, before they've even heard it in some instances, because of the personal attack on what they think about that person, then stops them being open to what that person might be saying. I think that is a real problem of our time. Yeah. On the line, somebody who's very happy to get around a table and talk about things and has even hosted discussions on social media would be the great Garvo, the man of reason. Good morning to you, Gary.
Good morning, everybody. Are you well?
Morning.
Yeah. Really good, mate. Really good. I'm delighted to be having this conversation because we live in a democracy. What did you want to add to it?
It's just the fact that we're so petrified now to talk outside our own bounds. And really, if you think about it, that's the way you learn. You push into new areas, you learn about different people, different situations. When did we become so scared to learn? We're going to make mistakes. We're human. So let's appreciate the fact that, we learn through our mistakes most of the time. And let's be a bit more forgiving sometimes about, other things, other people, other situations.
Yes.
We're never going to be completely on the mark, but let's just be a bit more forgiving, for God's sake.
Well said. There he is. That's why they call him the man of reason, isn't it, Owen?
Absolutely.
When did you notice this begin to change, Garvo? Because I think we know when Owen put that situation to us, that he would like to be referred to as a white female. And if he'd said that in some of the workplaces that I think I remember you talking about in the 1970s, it's not like he'd have been ridiculed. It just wouldn't have computed, would it? People wouldn't have really kind of understood it. What do you see as a trajectory, Gary, of this way of thinking, and why has it got the way it is?
I think if I had to sort of put an empirical moment on it, was probably somewhere around the 90s.
Okay.
I noticed a change in that sort of behaviour. And remember, that was a time of great sort of change.
Yes.
Politically, financially, socially, whatever. But my answer to that is if that is the way that Owen wants to identify himself, that's his prerogative, that's his right. But it's also somebody else's prerogative to perceive him in the way that they see him. Whether there's a right or wrong in either of them, but it's each other's right. And as long as you respect each other's rights to do that, it will be fine.
And it might be a little bit sort of romanticized, but going back to the 70s, as I recall it, and what people refer to as a British sense of fair play and justice, it would be. I think you would have been received with a mixture of jeering and gentle Mickey taking and acceptance. That's Britain on a good day, isn't it? It's like, okay, Owen wants to be referred to as a white woman. I don't know if that's how you put it, or identify as. And there would be people making jokes about that, having fun about that, and also saying, well, okay, if that's what you want to do, that's what we'll do, sweetheart. And it would have been robust, wouldn't it? And is that what you're talking about, Garva? How it can be that person, everyone gets their needs met, don't they? It's like, I'm not being made to accept you. I'm using my own sense of fair play to accept you. And I've got I might have my own challenges about it, but I'm not going to let them get in the way or make it disrespectful or illegal.
Think about it this way, right? I've always theorized this a lot, that when people come across something unusual or they haven't encountered it before, they tend to test it out to see what that would mean. Is it a threat? Is it, can I eat it? Whatever. It's primeval behavior where we do a series of tests. And then once you've established what it is, then you can sit and deal with it and, be a bit more logical. And yes, of course, you'd run the gauntlet of all the Mickey taking and the jokes, but it would settle down in the end, and people will accept. It's just time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think things have changed over the years as well. I mean, I've spoke to Garvo about this many a time. We've spoke about in UK television, the Alf Garnets and the TV programs that were on at the time.
Yeah.
Everybody accepted it. There was never a Mary Whitehouse experience with those sorts of programs. Everybody took those programs and everybody had their own opinions about it. You would hear people, I certainly wasn't old enough, but surely you would hear people talk about these programs in the pubs, but it was never about how political it was. It was about how funny it was. Yes. Life is funny. Life is humorous. And if you take it that way, everything's good in my eyes, you know, and things have changed. I mean, over the years, those programs will never be shown on terrestrial television again because it hurts people. You know, people are insulted over it. Whereas I look back at those programs and I have a chuckle because it was a true reflection of how life was back then. But if you were to show them now, I don't think the program would last until the first break with the amount of complaints that the woke crew would ring in and complain about.
And there would only be 30 people watching, wouldn't there? You know, we're not living in the age of mass TV anymore on broadcast, are we? These will all be niche things, niche discussions. But I think you're absolutely right on that. Standards, funny enough, those disinformation labels emblazoned across my profiles later proved to be true, and no retraction or boosting of my profile's business page is dead on arrival, missing in action. Still, no apology from Facebook then, Mrs. M. It was such a strange time to hear community members suggest we, questioners, should be rounded up by the police, army and locked up, treated forcibly. Yes, there are still a few apologies outstanding, I think, aren't there here? But we were just following the science. We're in trouble now. Fortunately, he's here and he wants to be on the screen. Garv, are you sticking around or have you got to go out to a field somewhere to contemplate the beauty of nature?
No, I'm not going to hog the microphone. I'm going to let somebody else come in and give their point of view.
So good to hear from you, mate. So, did you have a nice birthday at the weekend?
I did, yes. I had a lovely birthday.
Belated birthday best and love from us all at Good Morning Portugal, our family to yours as well, and everyone, the Gumpers, wishing you a beautiful day and belated birthday best, mate. Thanks for calling in.
Cheers, gents.
All right, cheers.
Bye.
Applause for him. Uh-oh. Talk about old-fashioned. Lord Gilchrist is here. All rise. Right.
Order. I've actually got the voice today for being a speaker of the house. You might hear I'm a little hoarse.
You're not a little horse.
Nay, lads. Nay.
Right. Before we get into what you want to talk about, can you hear this?
Carl, good morning. Good morning, everybody else on the phone in. Owen, thank you sincerely for those wonderful words. I wish I had the ability to phrase things and express them in that way. On the topic of wokeness, cancel culture, I think the problem is one of perspective. When we look back now at things which 49 years ago, in 1974, were topical, acceptable, normal, they look very strange now. And of course, the current generation look down their noses at us without realizing that in another 49 years' time, some of the things we do now and are entirely socially acceptable will be outrageous. And some of the things which are taboo now will be absolutely mainstream. And I think we and every other generation have been guilty of failing to put things in perspective in the greater scheme of things.
Oh, well said, sir. That was good, wasn't it? And so
Absolutely.
One day I will receive a social validation from my macrame bikini. Oh, just the bottom part. I don't wear the top. Lord Gilchrist, adult tantrum, wokeism or wokiness. Is that right?
Sometimes it feels a bit like a tantrum thrown by a grown adult. I'm exaggerating, of course. Obviously points from people are valid. I don't have to agree with everyone. Particularly the older you get, you kind of know your own mind. But again, as the last caller message said, like in 49 years' time, things that we do will be considered out of date, outrageous. And I think that's just a thing you could look back over history, and see examples all across history. Like the poorhouse prisons in the UK, debtors' prisons, being in prison because you're poor is shocking to think, but that was the done and accepted thing back then, wasn't it? So, I mean, God only help us if they bring back debtors' prisons these days. Everyone in the world will be locked up, wouldn't they?
Or you could say, as some wits and sages do, that there's no need for a prison because we're all living in an open one, where we pay for our own accommodation, own uniforms, and own food, and that's a lot cheaper than running Her Majesty's institutions. Okay, Obi's here. I'll come back to you in just a moment, Owen and Andy. In the US, a major political party refuses to have any rational discussion about gun violence, and they proudly fly swastikas. All of them, Ubi. I am sensing a little bit of I don't know, what is it, poetic license, and this tends to happen when the American parties. It's easy for us Brits here, isn't it, chaps, to look at the American politics and think, oh dear. But when it sounds there like all of those people in that political party all proudly fly swastikas. I've not seen that. I love sitting by the campfire, says Ubi, holding hands and singing Kumbaya. And so you should. When people at the campfire consistently show me what and who they are, I believe them. That is to say, when a fascist consistently gaslights and deliberately argues in bad faith, rational discussion is impossible. How common is it, though, Ubi? I want to know. The only good news is that the US fascists, many of whom proudly embrace that moniker, are sharpening their knives against each other. Okay, interesting. And there's always a little turn, I find, when Americans talk about American politics. I feel slightly uncomfortable. Is that because I'm British, Lord Portuguese?
Yeah, I think we watch in with bemusement and wonder, don't we, as outsiders to that system? I do. I certainly do. And I've got I've got the artifact baseball caps here in my office.
For God's sake, don't put that on.
No. It's artifacts. I have it as a piece of memorabilia, like
Yes.
like a sports jersey. But I think we do watch on in bewilderment sometimes at the rest of the world, because England is our own little goldfish bowl, and we look out for it, and the whole world looks big and shiny and different. Yep. And also, we don't have exactly the domestic politics to shout about, do we? So, but I think American politics is something I'm not very eager to comment on. One, because I don't know much about it, and two, it seems like also the UK, it's kind of bipartisan kind of thing, but with the same
next level. To the next level, absolutely, and it's very emotional.
The same kind of manifesto, really, isn't it? So
yes. Well, let's save a big old Democrat and Republican ding dong for another day, because that's a can of worms. Time out there, but only to come back to a comment of yours, and maybe this is where we could conclude today, as we kind of celebrate the fact that Portugal have moved from a dictatorship to a democracy on this special day in history. And then keeping an eye on the horizon, what's coming in another 49 or 50 years. You said earlier on, the UK is really turning into a police state, Andy. So do you believe that to be the case? And what can we do about it? I'm sure Owen's got something to say about this. You first, Lord Gilchrist.
Is the UK turning into a police state?
Yes.
It has been for decades. But it's like anything. Is it going to improve? Is it going to get better? No, it's not. Because there's money in their hills. If you go to any small town, any large metropolis in the UK, you are tri-located on 3 CCTV cameras. So your exact GPS position can be watched, tracked, radioed in. And so, it is really Big Brother is watching you in the UK. And
to be fair, all those CCTV cameras have brought crime down drastically, haven't they?
Right. I'd like to see your stats on that.
I was trying to do sarcasm really loudly there.
Right.
I hope
Okay.
it got through, yeah.
Right. No, I don't think it's really had anything other than it can observe and watch, and it can even be for things. Like I was driving in London once, and I was in a renter van. Long story short, basically, I had to get across. What's it called? Hammersmith. It's got a big interjunction with the flyover, the North Circular flyover bit there. Anyway, trying to get down towards the river, and I had to enter a box junction, which I was in this van. I couldn't get out of it. I had the tail hanging over it, and on camera they watched me. And within a week, I was fined for literally having no road space apart from to hang the tail of this van into a box junction. Now, okay, it seems a bit petty.
Sort of thing,
I didn't block the junction, right? People could have
Same
got
here.
around.
Yes, exactly. I exactly the same thing. I was in a yellow box.
It was watching the roads to basically put a stealth tax on me and money making for no reason other than it's not like I was breaking the law.
No crime there. No
really
foul.
a crime. I wasn't like jamming up the entire interjunction, and so I was thinking this is only going to get more and more scrutinized, isn't it? Your daily actions can be tracked. You've got facial recognition, you've got all this kind of technology. For why? And it's control, like you said. It's a leveraging fines and tariffs on the public stealth taxes and raising revenues. And I don't like it. At least, thank God, in Portugal, there's that law here where you're not even allowed to film in public or have a dash cam on your car because it's not admissible. It's not a legal thing. So
there's a good bit of information. So whilst we are celebrating today, Freedom Day, you fear that in the post, in our native UK, things are getting worse, and we're heading to not the sort of dictatorship that historically, and
it's an autocracy more than a dictatorship.
But certainly not about freedom, liberty, and the great things of being a human being.
No, they sell it as, oh, isn't it cute and lovely, and isn't it old, and how lovely nothing's changed. But it's because basically they want to try and maintain this idea of like cute old England. But the reality is, cute old England is a shocking. Notice the Brit Cop Show always reference CCTV. Yeah, it's everywhere. And
it's actually only for that. All the CCTV cameras are owned by media companies who use it for footage for TV shows. It's not used in courts or anything like that.
It's hardwired to all police stations. There's a whole network. My friend who worked in local government basically was an engineer and helped consult with the police to install all of these systems. The layered design. It was his job. He was like, "Oh, this would make the town."
It was just his job. Those words. It was just my job.
I was just following orders.
Yes, exactly.
But as Owen said earlier, you know, the biggest sort of prosecutor of opinions on social media is the UK. Compared to the rest of the world, it's probably a more strict than Russia or, you know, the States or anywhere else.
And still it has the Russian and Chinese bogeyman, doesn't it, to say, oh, it could be worse. We could be living like those people, which is true on one level, but not when you're...
I really wish we could hold a mirror up to somewhere like England and go, this is what is coming to you lot if you don't pay attention. And I think this is why a lot of people leave the UK for these reasons. Certainly, I didn't feel that particularly like free or had liberties in the UK, particularly in COVID. They pulled the lockdown in after it was too late. You know, there was no point for it.
Again, it's a bit going into the pandemic now. Might be a bit like
no. But it's an example of the.
I agree. And we will return to it. We will return to it. I thank you for being here. Last words then to our great writer, as it turns out this morning, of inspirational words, Owen. What do you think about the UK becoming a police state or similar, Owen?
Well, that's the reason why I'm here in Portugal.
Right.
I could see things changing. I mean, like I say, I used to be a civil servant. I worked for the UK government, and I saw things changing within my own job role. I was a national trainer. So when I saw things changing, I knew it was time to leave, or at least have the chance to leave the country. But just on one thing, just going back to that, is that I do believe that now is the time that, because we have so many complaints about our prime ministers, our presidents, and everything else. Now is the time that we reclaim our power back and we decide how we are going to live.
Very good. What a brilliant note to nearly end on, because we have Filomena joining us. But now is the time to reclaim our sovereignty.
Filomena,
Tuesday.
Bom dia, alegria.
Bom dia to you, Filomena. Tonight, I am so looking forward to your company. What can we expect with your friends Helena and Senor Lourenço tonight?
Well, first of all, I would like to say hello to these three handsome men on the screen.
Hello.
I'm blushing, Filomena. I'm blushing.
That's a love thy neighbour joke.
And it's not a joke. And And yes, tonight with Helena, and oh, you are blushing, Owen. Owen. Well, so yes, Helena and Carlos. So it's another Carlitos. So Helena Duarte, Carlos Lourenço, and I am just a translator because it's a good practice for you.
Yes.
If you want to listen to some Portuguese tonight.
Yep.
So they are going to speak in Portuguese because, Carlos Lourenço just speaks Portuguese. Helena speaks a little bit of English, but she doesn't feel confident enough. So they want me to translate. So it's a good opportunity for you to listen to Portuguese and then the English translation, as best as I can.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. Thank you so much for making it happen, Filomena. So that's tonight, 8 o'clock on this channel, 25th of April, yes. Carnation Revolution special. Helena Duarte, Carlos Lourenço, and our very own Filomena here, who's on the line at the moment. Thank you so much for organising that. Look forward to seeing you then, Filomena.
Yep. Yes, yeah. See you.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Thank you so much, Filomena.
Enjoy the day. Enjoy the holiday.
Day of freedom. Lovely big round of applause for you.
Ciao.
Oh, João de Norte is here as well. How about that? Sorry, nothing personal here, João de Norte, but we've got to finish on our call here. Our special Iberian FM extended edition today, talking about celebrating the democracy that Portugal found for itself. It wasn't an easy journey, but it was certainly better than the dictatorship they had experienced up until that point on this very day, 25th of April, back in 1974. Cheers, Andy. Cheers, Owen. We'll share. I'll be sending those around on Facebook. Yes, T-4. We'll see you soon up in Pontelima, and we'll play out with the Iberian FM phone-in. Join us again tomorrow for another debate. Should we go into American politics? I don't know. No, don't go there. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye for now. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.